Disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Put the fucking fire out!
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello. That guy, we got to get that out of there. We've had that on long enough. But hello! Did you miss us? Did you miss us? Did you miss us? Procaccini, did you miss us?
Albanese, did you miss it?
Albanese, did you miss us? Who's in there? I don't even see because I'm running the show tonight again. John's working again tonight. But you know what? I'm sure he'll be back next week. I'm sure he'll be back next. Oh, he's not back next week either. I think he's going on a cruise.
Could you imagine that? Is he hitting the buttons in the back?
I'm gonna boot him out in 2 seconds. Yeah. Look at him. You can't tell he's laughing back there like an idiot. He's laughing like an idiot back there. Yeah, so, anywho, we're back.
Since the last time we were on, something, some pretty big milestone might have happened in the city. Some really big, something special, something that you really.
Nobody cares about basketball and nobody cares about hockey. Something like that. How do we get a guy out tonight who's into golf and into the Rangers? It's amazing to me. I don't know how that happens. Really?
I think I got him.
You did. All right.
Dude, how sick was those games? But honestly,
oh my god, my son. I told you, my son went down to the parade today. He said, "I'm going down." I'm like, "You're crazy, man. When are you gonna go to the bathroom or something? Where are you gonna go?" I mean, you
got to do it.
There.
I know, but
he left at 4 o'clock. He got there by 6 o'clock, and he didn't even get in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, got there at 6 a.m. and he couldn't get in.
You know what it was? Like they have it again.
5 million people down there.
I was gonna say I went to the parade when the Rangers won. I mean, it was
about
still
3 people there.
It was mayhem. I knew. I mean, I loved that up for you, but it was mayhem. But
yeah,
I still remember every time I go past on Broadway. I remember where I was. I was sitting on top of a newsstand, and it's still there, right by the church over there. So now what we got now? We got the World Cup now. That's it. That's all we got.
Yeah, I'm out on soccer. Can't.
Well, hold on. I gotta do it today. I gotta show you this thing. It's so freaking funny. I can't stop watching this. Hold on one second. Where is it?
You might have it queued up.
I had it. I had it queued up. Hold on. Ready? You can't even believe that's the same goal announcement from an Englishman and then the Mexican dude. Oh my god, it's so fun. I mean,
football fans, as they say, but I'm out.
Dude, that is so fun. That one guy, he's been doing the goal thing for how long? 40 years or something? I don't even know. 50 years.
So anyway, you went to a 290 100-tree reunion, huh? How was it? It smelled like a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke.
Yeah, it did. A lot of
coming out the was busy.
Had to get low over there.
Yeah. Where'd you have it?
They had it in Bourbon and something right across the street from the Garden. Really great place. Yeah. It was awesome. Nice. I took the bus in. I didn't even have to drive.
A lot of laughs. You get any guys for the show?
I got a couple lined up, but most of the guys, those that's not their.
That's not their bag, baby.
It's not my bag, baby. Yeah.
Well, I went up to Syracuse, and I got a couple of people. Me and Kenny went up there. Chiefs conference. We have Mrs. Moon coming on.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have the guy. What the hell was his name?
Got a Buffalo guy, right? Buffalo Fire Department.
Buffalo rescue guy, and we got the guy who was in the collapse in Baltimore, who was holding a guy's hand. Tia Jerk, bring you Kleenex for that show, bro.
What do you mean, like the
one that just happened, the collapse when the guys died? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was busy doing my thing. Kenny's talking about scary, stories up in Harlem, and I'm getting guests while he's sitting there still fucking around. I don't know what he was doing.
You know what he's doing is he's getting the same 3 that you just got, but he's
Well,
going to
I'll
do it a
get
week
him, and
earlier.
then after we have him on, he'll have him on. That's how he works. I'm all over him. I had 3 guys come up to the booth. I swear to God, this is a true story. And they said to me, "I'm going to sign on to the membership right after Procaccini signs on to the membership." I go, "Well, I'm never seeing your money yet because that cheap bastard ain't signing up on the membership."
He's not on a fixed income yet, is he?
That guy makes more overtime. He works more overtime than shake a stick at, bro. Me and you are on fixed incomes, paycheck to paycheck. Speaking of which, we have to pay the bills. Let me get 3 commercials in here quick so we can get our star in here.
All right, zip it.
We don't need no stinking gonzo.
When it comes to firehouses, the floors take a beating. Boots, waters, tools, apparatus traffic, it just never stops. That's why departments like the Gloucester City, New Jersey Fire Department and so many others trust Armor Tough flooring and tile. From the hallways to the training rooms to the apparatus bays, Armor Tough delivers a clean, professional finish built to handle the daily grind of the job. Durable, seamless, and designed specifically for high-demand public safety environments, this isn't just flooring, it's infrastructure you can count on. And it doesn't stop at the floor. Take a look at the Groves Gear Racks, built with integrated security features to protect turnout gear, personal equipment, and department assets. Secure storage, smart design, and built to last. Because your gear deserves the same protection you provide to your community. If your department is ready to upgrade its space from the bay floor to the gear room, reach out to Armor Tough Flooring and Tile. Built for the fire service. Built to last.
Excellent. Let's get Dragon Eddie's because he called me up because we missed the show. Of course, you guys don't realize I had lost my voice when I came back from a book signing, so he couldn't do a show. And he calls me up, "Oh, I thought I paid the VIG. You didn't play my commercial." I was like, "Hey, dude, don't get
dude.
Don't get on the show. Get in the show, Dragon Eddie."
When an elevator emergency happens, being prepared matters, and the people trapped inside are counting on you. At Dragon Rescue Management, we specialize in elevator emergency management training, built for fire departments, first responders, and safety teams who refuse to leave preparedness to chance. Our elevator industry experienced and seasoned fire service instructors bring decades of real-world elevator rescue knowledge, teaching cutting-edge proven rescue procedures and passenger release techniques that put safety first every time. And we don't just teach it, we equip you for it with professional patented-grade elevator rescue kits, polling tools, and unexpected movement kits designed for performance under pressure. DRM also provides custom elevator door training aids that allows you to practice the skill set from our training in the comfort and safety of your firehouse. Don't wait for the next stalled occupied elevator call to test your crew. Get trained, get equipped, and be ready. Set yourself up today at dragonrescue.com because readiness isn't optional.
Ready for Dragon Eddie. I forgot to mention, how the hell did I wind up picking up the bill with Vince again? I don't know. He's got some kind of, it's like the Jedi mind trick or something. Yeah, pick up the bill, Kubes. You're picking it up. Okay, I'm picking up the bill. I don't know how that happens.
You're picking up the bill, Kubes.
2 times in a row, you got me. All right, let's not least do identifier.
When you're on scene, seconds matter, visibility matters, and your gear, it better perform. No excuses. At Identifier, we get it because this isn't just business, it's the job. We provide high-quality helmet identifiers, accountability tags, and custom safety solutions built for the fireground, not the showroom. Our products are designed to take heat, hold up under pressure, and make sure your crew is seen, identified, and accounted for fast. Whether it's a working fire at 2 a.m. or a routine call, clear identification can make the difference between chaos and control. Gear up with professionals who understand the job. Be seen, on scene, at identifiersafety.com. Use code SALTY to save 10% on your next order.
All right, so we got another guy. He's a jack of all trades. Fireman, writes books, does documentaries, producer. He does it all, this guy, Ruff. You know what I'm saying? I think I heard him over say, well, you were in the back saying that his next project is going to be The Warriors in Back. He's going to make that into a TV show, I heard.
I see him laughing in the background.
Yeah.
I think he fell out of his chair.
I can't get that book out to him fast enough tomorrow. I might fly there myself and hand it to him. Anywho, let's get him in here, Rob. good guy. I was listening to his stories in the pre-show. Let's get him
ready?
in here. Yeah, I'm ready. I got the applause already. I don't need Gonzo.
Coming to the stage, Jimmy Hanlon.
There he is.
Hi. How you doing, guys? What's up, brothers?
What's happening?
How are you, Jim?
I'm well. I'm sitting out here in sunny California.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's gonna airlift that tomorrow to you.
I'm gonna get that book to you faster than you can shake a stick yet, bro. Hold on a minute. Let's get patriotic before I start swooning Jimmy on making my TV show here. Oh, God.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen, brother.
You gotta stand up for that.
No, you know why? Because we can't see. Nobody can see you. And we'd be staring at your ball bag anyway, and we don't really want to do that. You know what I mean? So anyway, here's Jimmy's newest project he's working on right here. Check it out, The Warriors and Back.
By Kevin Kubler.
I look forward to reading it, brother. It's gonna be great.
All right, let's go with this, because this story is not only about the firehouse. There's so many moving parts that I just learned about tonight. So we're going to try to condense it and get everything all in order for you when we talk about James Hanlon and his career as a cinematographer and a firefighter down in town. So let's talk about the early years first, James. Where'd you grow up? I heard you said you were from the Bronx. You're probably a Yankee fan. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was born into a big Irish family in the Bronx.
Right.
And most of my family's from the South Bronx. I was born in Lincoln Hospital. And we moved from there in the South Bronx. My grandfather owned a couple of buildings, one on Southern Boulevard and 147th. And we ended up, my parents bought a house in City Island.
City Island?
Yeah, I lived in
City
City
Island.
Island.
First guy I've ever met who lives on City Island. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, it was an amazing
I'm sure that was amazing back
childhood
then.
when I got there. And yeah, it's just
Like Long Beach. It's its own little island, right? Where I live in Long Beach.
Yeah, it is. It's a great place. We call it the Rock, and later on I would end up at the Rock, the other Rock, and it's a wonderful place. And I grew up fishing at night. You know, sneaking out of the house, going down on the the docks, and doing a lot of fishing for stripers, snappers, bagoals. You name it, porgies. All that stuff.
That's
and
awesome.
I went to St. Mary's, Star of the Sea. And it was great. I got beat up by the nuns and the priests.
Oh,
and
who
stuff
didn't?
like
Of
that.
course you did.
It's a great little neighborhood. It's all Irish, Italian, Jewish. It's great. It's like
There's one firehouse on the island, right?
Yeah, that was the one thing, that firehouse. It was I think
50?
it's engine 70 and a lot of 50.
Oh, 70. Yeah, 70.
And we'd go by the firehouse. Right next door to the firehouse, there was a kid who lived there. His name was Jimmy Booth. Mm-hmm. And he ended up becoming like one of the heads of EMS. And that's before like they merged over with the fire department. He lived right next door. And we would go by his house and we'd run into the firehouse and there was nobody ever in there.
They weren't in there.
They weren't.
They weren't on a run.
No, no, they would be down at the dock fishing, They'd be down the street fishing. They'd be walking around the neighborhood. I mean, it was that kind of place. It was kind of like Mayberry RFD.
Right.
Nobody locked their doors. It was a wonderful place to grow up. They had Little League. They had everything. And the guy who ran the Little League was a really great guy. And his name was Sal Paraglia. Right. And Sal Paraglia was a South Bronx fireman, and he was probably about 5'7" with forearms like Popeye, big hands on him like hams, and he had 9 children, 8 boys and 1 girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think
not much to do on the island, huh?
No. We know what hobby he was in, bro.
He wasn't fishing.
Nah, he's fishing for something else.
And it's a bunch of his sons all became firemen. Like Gerard was in 26 truck for I think like 25 years. There's Paulie became a fireman, and then Eddie became a fireman. They're all South Bronx firemen, and his dad ran the Little League, and he was just that guy. He was the guy who was like a fireman, and then he was off for a couple of days, and we were always around the house, and he loved sports. And then a couple of doors down from me was another fireman from 38 truck, Billy McDaniels, who was just a great guy with a big handlebar mustache. That man had a smile on his face every time I saw him. I never saw him without a smile on his face. And I remember thinking later on, that's got to be like, I mean, he's a fireman. He's always happy.
Got to be the best job in the world, right?
Yeah. And so
that's what my wife would say to me. You going to work? Why are you smiling? I'd be like, "Cause it's the best job in the world." That's why.
Think about going to 38 or 26 and then going back to City Island.
About the 70, right? This is about the 70s.
And then living on City Island, like you would just put everything behind you, even though it was probably so close, right? What is that? 15-minute ride, probably 20-minute ride.
Not even, yeah. It's so close. It's funny because once you come down Pelham Parkway, you go through the park, and then you're on this.
It breaks up all the crap from the, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the weekends, everybody would come on the island to, Johnny's Reef, Sammy's Fish Box. They'd all come down there, and everybody would want to get seafood. It was great, Orchard Beach. Orchard Beach was great. We would go to Orchard Beach. And then they had the firing range there, so all day long you'd hear guns being shot across the water. The cops have, they have their thing. But I mean, all I did was swim in the summertime. We would get out of school, St. Mary's, and me and my buddies, we would run down to Louis' barber shop, give him $2, and he would shave all our heads, and we would cut our ties off, and then run down 4th Street, dive into the water. And that was
I always had a crew cut for the summer. Always totally shaved head. Yeah.
Yeah, one by one, he'd put us in, shave our heads. That's like we're in the military. We'd run down and take our ties. So we'd cut the ties at his place and then run down, and we would jump off the Fordham Street Pier right at the edge and go in the water. And we'd be like, it's summertime.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it was a great place to grow up.
And your parents worked for the Daily News, you said, right?
My parents worked at the Daily News.
Right.
My dad was there for 40 years. He was a South Bronx kid. And he grew up with Colin Powell.
Really?
They were school buddies. Yeah, I have a great picture of Colin Powell. He wrote me a nice note on the photo. He's a nice man, a very good man. And they went to school together growing up. And my dad, he went into the military. My dad was at school and then got a job at the Daily News. And my dad already had like 2 kids, 3 kids, so he wasn't getting drafted and yada, yada, yada. And then my dad just kept having kids. There was 8 of us. We're 8 in the family,
Oh my God.
Typical Irish family.
Yeah, man.
Wait a minute.
8 kids and a lot of potatoes.
Yeah. Now we know what his father was doing too, besides the papers.
He wasn't a fisherman either.
We lived on the same street as the Praglias. They had 9.
Oh my God. 8. So.
And then we had the Germans across the street, the Shallas. I think they had 8.
Right.
So there was a
lot. That's awesome.
There was no drugstores over there in City Island, buddy. Couldn't buy any protection.
It's definitely a wine store there.
Yeah.
So it was a great place, but there was a lot of firemen that lived there. There was a lot. I remember there was a guy, Chris McGuire, South Bronx fireman. Billy McGee was a really tough fireman. He was in 54 truck, and then I think he was the captain of 51 up by Boston Post Road. He was a tough guy, Billy. He was a really tough, and we all kind of looked up to him as kids. And then I had a really good buddy of mine, John Flamio, who was in 95 engine and 36 truck. And he was the guy who kind of like got me to be like, all right, you're a knucklehead kid. You're getting in a lot of trouble. You better start training.
This is the path. Yeah.
You better become a fireman because you're not too smart. So you better become a fireman.
You had no other brothers or family members on the job? Or...
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. I come from a family of really smart people. They were all geniuses. My sister tested out of high school And when she went freshman year to St. Catherine's, and David Berkowitz shot 2 kids in the head over there. The son of Sam in '77, and that was all going on. And then she took some test, and they moved her right out of high school, and they said, "You got to go to college. You're too smart."
Wow.
Yeah, she was.
Where are you in line? Where are you?
I'm number 4.
Number 4.
So there were 3 real smart ones, and then me, the meathead.
Bad night.
Bad seafood or something.
I don't know. I mean, I
ate a bad clam that night.
I remember my mussels and clams. I remember my father saying to my mother one time, he was out on the back porch, and he said, "Well, maybe he can become a priest." And my mother said, "There's no way that kid's going to be a priest." And I just was,
Isn't that funny stuff that you remember? Like they didn't even know that you heard them more, probably, right? Just
oh my God. He used to say it all the time. He says, "I think this kid is eating paint chips." It was. Yeah.
So when did he get you the job at the Daily News? Because he said you worked there then.
Yeah. I was working at the Daily News, and I was in the summer times. I would go in there and I would help clean the presses, and I would do stuff like that. It was down in first it was down at 42nd Street, but then I went to a Brooklyn plant, and I was working over in Brooklyn off Bergen Street, and I was doing that. And then when I graduated, they were like, "You have to go to college," and my mother was like, "He's not going to college." What are you talking about?
For Christ's sake, how's he gonna go to college?
And my sister and brother had come after me, and she was really smart. And then my little brother, he was a meathead too. So they were like,
That's a great term, meathead.
Yeah, and he's an electrician. My brother, he's an electrician guy, and now I became a fireman. And there you go. Right? It's crazy. But so I started training with Flamio, and he had me running and training. I would go to Pelham Bay Park and run up and down the old stadium with like a 50-pound vest on. He told me it was 20 pounds. It was like 50, and I was in really good shape. And here I am running up and down the stairs. And I'd gone to Mount St. Michael High School in the Bronx, and I was a track athlete, so I was running track. I wanted to be a basketball player, but I was really tiny, and I didn't grow. I was like super short. And then finally in junior year, I shot up, and I reached 6 feet. But I was training like crazy, and then I took the test at the Coliseum downtown. I mean, in on
Columbus Circle.
Yeah, Columbus Circle.
I took that test with you. Yeah. I probably took the same test with you.
Yeah, and
is that the one where the kid died? The kid died taking.
Yep. Yeah, there was a bunch of kidney failures. There was like, I think 150. There was a lot of people. 150,000 people took that test.
Yeah, some ridiculous number, right?
I remember when you walked in, there was a pile of dirty mattresses there, and you're like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" And by the time you come around, you're falling all over the mattress. Thank God for these dirty mattresses.
Thank God for these filthy mattresses.
Yeah.
Well, I showed up, and at the time, I mean, I was in really, really good shape. I mean, I was in great shape. I was squatting like 400 pounds. I was in phenomenal shape. And John Flamio had me like, he was a big, strong guy. And he'd been on the job, I think, like already 12 years up in 95. And so I had gone to his firehouse a whole bunch of times, and I was hanging out and staying over. And so I was like real excited. But I had long blonde hair, like down to here. And when I showed up to take the test, I like pulled my hair back in a ponytail. And this guy looks at me and he goes, "What are you, some kind of sissy?" I'm not going to say the word he said. But, And then he goes, "We got a girl here. She's gonna go." And then it was just, I was getting hammered. And I was
good.
Like,
use that for, to make sure you run harder. You know what I mean? It's good. God. Good work.
I crushed the test. I mean, I really just crushed it. I blew through the whole thing. Did really good. I mean, remember you had to run back and forth, jump the wall.
Yeah.
I remember watching, and some guy couldn't get over the wall. And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, is that more difficult than I think it's going to be?" But it wasn't. And then we did the whole thing. I thought the toughest thing was, at the very end, my legs were burning so bad when we had to grab that, like,
drag it across.
Yeah, dragging it all the way around, and you had to slide. Because when I went in to jump in,
I hit the tank too. I hit the bottom too. I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I clipped it going in.
Yeah, I did too.
And I banged my head like my face off the pavement and like off that floor, and I was like, oh God. And by the time I came around, I dragged the thing out a bloody nose, but I was like, all right, I think I got 100. And my brother was, he was like a Wall Streeter guy. He's like a real smarty pants. We used to call him Alex Keaton from like Family Ties.
Nice.
He was like, with the tie, really smart guy. And he bet me $500 because at the time, but right before that, I was like going to acting classes and trying to be an actor. And he was just like, you're never going to make it. He was just like, you need a real job. He's like, you better listen to mom. And so he bet me like $400 or $500. I couldn't beat him in the test. So I get 100 and I get a 99 on the written.
Wow.
And he got a 99, but he got like an 80.
95. Oh really? Oh,
yeah, he God. Like bombed it. He bombed it. And so
he is a meathead.
Yeah. Well, no, he's smart. He's just not strong. You know what I mean? But, I don't want to shame my brother. He's probably watching. Sorry. But, yeah, he was a great hockey player. But
hockey.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to be a fireman. So, and he's done really great in his life. So
you come home and you tell your parents you're going to be a fireman. What do they say to you?
Well, I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them anything because I was at the Daily News and they just figured I was going to follow the path and kind of go up and go that way. I was in New York City. I was taking acting classes at night. I was living in New York City. And at first I was living up in Harlem. And then I had a great apartment up there. And then I moved down to the Village into Alphabet City. And there just wasn't a lot of firemen that lived in Manhattan. I mean, I had met a couple later on, like Captain Jimmy Ellison, I think is Jimmy Ellison.
Yeah,
he was in Squad. I tried to get him a Squad. He was like, I don't know, kid.
What are you doing with that hair, kid?
Blonde hair, you're not getting in.
Well, he at the time he was living over in Stuytown because Stuytown was totally different, And Stuytown was a great place. I remember working in doing details to, Engine 5, and which was a great company.
That's a good spot there. Yeah,
I worked there once. Great spot, and 3 Truck, which was just phenomenal. And you'd go into Stuytown and you'd be pulling people out, taking people out that sometimes needed help, the older people, and there were always these World War II vets, and they were tough, and you see the man and the woman. I mean, unbelievable. And you'd look at the pictures on the wall, and the woman would say, he was in Normandy, and you're carrying these guys. I know, it's crazy. But anyway, I get on the job, I don't say anything to them, and then I get the call. Right. I got on the job, and I kept calling up, and the lady's like, will you stop calling? I mean, because back in those days, you had the phone at home, you had the, the whole thing, and yada, yada, yada. And so I get on the job, I get the letter, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. And I go into the office at the Daily News, and I tell this guy, his name was Lou Costello.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, bad.
And he was a short guy, a little bald guy with big forearms, and he used to wear these suspenders, and he was in the advertising department. And I said, listen, I told Mr. Sheedy that I'm leaving and I'm taking a new job. And he goes, you're not going anywhere. And I said, he goes, your mom and dad are upstairs, and my uncle was the editor of the Daily News.
Wow, no shit.
He goes, you're not going anywhere. He says, you're staying here. What job did you get? What, do you want a raise? I said, no, I'm joining the New York City Fire Department. And he looked at me and he goes, what are you, a meathead? And he goes, you're going to get your face burned off. And I started laughing. And I said, no, I'll be all right. He says, I thought you were an actor. And then I just started laughing. And I said, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm leaving. And then that was it. I was living in the Village down in Alphabet City. I had a top floor apartment. And I took the job as a New York City fireman, and in January of 1994, the first class 194, I went to the Rock, and I showed up, and I thought, wow, I'm gonna crush this, and yeah, that didn't happen.
Whoopsies.
No, it was great. We had a good class. It wasn't a big class. It was in winter time, and it was cold and it was snowing a lot, and all the guys in the class were great. I met my best friend probably in the whole world. We still speak. I talked to him yesterday. Johnny Mack. He lives out in Long Island, and we went to the same firehouse. And I met him in Proby. Cool. Yeah. I met him in Proby School. He was a big, tall guy, and with a big beak on him. Before I went to the firehouse before him when I showed up, and they said, "Who's this other guy?" Because they couldn't pronounce his name. It's McConaughey. And I said, his name is Macanachi. I said, he's a tall Indian. Like, I said, yeah. I said, he doesn't talk. I said, it's just like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I was like, don't mess with him.
No shit. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's awesome.
Yeah. And he's this big, tall, 6'2" guy. He looked like his nickname in Proby School was JFK Jr. And
that's a picture you got with him. I got.
Yeah. This guy.
Look at
oh, he does look like JFK Jr. That guy.
Yeah, that fire is the last fire I ever went to. That was the last tour I worked, and me and Mac had the inside, and we were in Chinatown, and it was a fourth alarm. I'll tell you about the fire later, but it was a great fire. It was a really, really good fire. But we went into Proby School, and while I was in Proby School, I made this colossal mistake. You're at lunch and somebody says, what'd you do before you got here? And one of the guys is like, I was a manager at Wallbounds, and, I did this, I did that. And everybody's telling what they did. And I shouldn't have said it, but I should have said, I just worked at the Daily News. And some guy said to me, he goes, what'd you do? And I said, I'm an actor.
Oh, no, I knew you were going to say that.
That was it. I was done. They gave me the nickname Hollywood. And it was it. That was it. It was a Hollywood Hanlon, and
Hollywood Hanlon.
I got hammered every single day for the rest of the time. Everything Hollywood Hanlon. They would get, and then they had us doing snow angels. I would get in trouble, and I'd do snow angels outside in your underwear, doing snow angels, and they're marching us around and doing everything. And then something happened. And I forget, one of the chiefs said something, and I just made a comment, like a joke. Like, I just went by and I said something, and they turned around, they jumped all over me, and they were like, get him outside, and they're all yelling in my face and everything. And then one of the guys got a little close, this big guy, and he started like poking me and everything. And then I said, I'm going to knock you out, motherfucker, and this and that. And I kind of went at him, and then they pushed me, and it was all these chiefs, and they're just like, and then they were like, all right, you're out of here. And they went in and they opened up my locker, took the lock off, and they were like, get out of here, you're done. And I was like, oh,
wow.
What really? Yeah, I was like, wow. I was like, Jimmy Hanlon, you knucklehead, what have you done? And they said, before you leave, you got to go upstairs and see the chief. And the chief was Chief Murtaugh. He was the chief of the academy at the time. Nice guy, really nice guy. And I'll never forget it. I walked up there and he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from the Bronx. And he said, where do you live? I said, I'm living in Manhattan. And he goes, where? And I said, down in the Village. And he kind of looked at me. And then he said, where in the Bronx? I said, well, I lived in City Island. And he said, you know Billy McDaniels? And I said, yeah, really well. He's my neighbor, yada, yada, yada. And he's just like, and he goes, what kind of moron are you? I don't want to say the word he said, but he goes, what kind of moron are you that you wouldn't realize that this is the greatest job in the world and you just took a giant shit on it and you're going to get kicked out? And I was like, but he's like, shut up. He's like, one word out of your mouth. One word out of your mouth. He's like, and I don't know. Back then, what did we do? Was it 6 weeks or 7?
8 weeks.
It was 8 weeks. Yeah,
8 weeks.
It was really quick.
1 week was like the peace officer week. So it was really like 7 weeks or something.
That was a waste.
Yeah. So, and it went like that. And so I guess I had like 2 weeks left. And he said to me, if you say one word to anybody, one word, he goes, you're done. He goes, you understand? He goes, this is the greatest job in the world. He goes, keep your mouth shut. And I got to tell you something. I got hammered from the minute I got there in the morning until I left at night. Every instructor, they were all around me, just constantly, and nobody in my squad or nobody wanted to be anywhere near me.
Who's sitting at lunch by himself, fucking.
They're like, get out of here, get out of here. And I was getting hammered and hammered and hammered. And it's funny. And Johnny Mack would say to me all the time, come on, kid, stick to it. You can do it. You can do it. And they would just single me out just all the time.
He was like Forrest Gump going on the fucking bus. Taken. Seats taken.
Seats taken.
It's true. I mean, at one point I was like, you know the lunchroom, and it kind of gets really narrow down that one end.
Yeah.
I was like down there eating by myself. It was terrible. And so I make it all the way through. And I go all the way through, and nobody comes to my graduation because, like, my parents are like, look at this knucklehead and this. And I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know if I was going to make it. So we do the graduation, and it's on the west side, over near the USS. What's
Constellation?
Intrepid.
No, the Intrepid. Yeah,
right.
So it was over there, and we do the
Intrepid.
The
What is it? Constellation.
Yeah, no, the Intrepid.
Fucking
we do it,
idiot.
in a uniform, grab it, and grab the thing, and I'm walking out, and the guy from Intervale Avenue, ladder 19, his name Lieutenant Owen. He was an instructor, and he walked up to me and he said, "You fucking motherfucker." He says, "I lost $200 on you." he goes, "I'd have given." He goes, "I'd have bet 1,000 you wouldn't have made it." And then he goes, "Good luck, kid." He goes, "I don't think you'll make the probation period."
But everybody's betting against you, Jim. I don't know what's going on here.
I know. And I thought to myself, all right, you got through this. Now just keep your mouth shut, and just get to your firehouse and keep your mouth shut. And I didn't do that either. So I mean, that was kind of crazy. And
there he goes again.
I asked a bunch of guys where I should go, and everybody that I knew, were great firemen. I mean, the Bronx is full of great firemen. There's so many great firehouses. I had kids who I grew up, like Chris Daly's dad. We'd go to the firehouse with him as a kid. I think it's 48 truck on Seneca Avenue, I think, 48 truck. And we would go there. I remember as a kid, it's a funny story. We went to the firehouse, we grabbed a bunch of supplies, and then he said, before we go back to the firehouse, we got to drop some stuff off. And we went to the Corpus Christi Monastery. There's a monastery right in the middle of the South Bronx, and it's got like 30-foot walls. And inside are these nuns that take a vow of silence. And they live there. They go in there and they just take a vow of silence. So we went in, and the firemen would bring food for them and help out and fix things and yada, yada, yada. And here it is right in the middle of the South Bronx. You go outside the walls, and there's truck drivers and prostitutes and hookers. But you got this, monastery. And we went in as kids, and we were just trying to get the nuns to talk. And I was like, "Hey, what's your name? Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Oh, look at that, sister! Look, there's a mountain." We were like joking around. We were these kids, and they wouldn't talk, But I knew all these firemen, and I thought, should I go to the Bronx? Should I not go to the Bronx? I'm living in Manhattan, and then I was just like, I'll stay in Manhattan. And I called up kind of a favor. And I called up Billy McDaniels. I was like, "Hey, can you get me into a busy house? Can you get me into 30 truck or like into like 20?" I didn't even know firehouses because I knew nothing about the fire department except from John. And he was like, "You should go into this neighborhood or that neighborhood." And I was trying to get all these places, and I'm naming all these companies. And Billy goes, "You're lucky they don't send you to
City Island."
He's like, "Right now your name is Mud." And then he said to me, "Listen, there's a good house downtown," because he was in 38, and then he was doing a bit when he became lieutenant in 6 truck. And Chinatown's great. It's just a great place. 9 and 6 is a great place. And then eventually he went to 3 truck. But he got me into Engine 7 Ladder 1, and I went to that firehouse, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it was a really great firehouse. And when I walked in the firehouse the first time, we go to the probie party that you have afterwards. After you graduate, you go to probie party, and I was sitting outside, and Johnny Mac came out, and we're talking, and I said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going to Ladder Company 1. I was like, "No."
Dude, that's crazy.
And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." I was like, and I went to Engine 7 first. I was in Engine 7, I think, for 2 years, and then I went across the floor. And I was going there, and I was like, "This is amazing." And I was like, so I show up before him, and that's when I told him the story that he was a big, tall, Native
Indian?
American guy. Yeah.
Tatanka.
I told him his name was Macanachi. And I walked in with a cake and this and that. I think I came in with like a 6-pack of beer or something. I walk in the firehouse.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. And then and so I come in and I was just like, here I am. I'm in his firehouse. And the first guy to see me is this guy, Aaron Graber. And he's an old guy. Not old guy. He had 26 years on. And he was, he was he was a super nice guy. And he just said, how old are you? And I told him how old I was. And he said, oh, Christ, my kids are older than you. And then he said, come here. He said, you see that mop? You see that broom? He said, we're about to have dinner. Come on and eat with us. And I came in the firehouse and they were all there and they were just looking at me. And I ate with them and I kind of helped out. Nobody really talked to me much. They were making fun of me a little bit. And then I got in the sink and they were like, clean the dishes. And they all left. So I cleaned all the dishes and all the pots and I did all that stuff. And then I was kind of hanging around and the guy goes, when are you working again? And I said, I'm working, I think tomorrow night. In my first tour. And I was in group, I think it was in group 15 was my first group. I couldn't figure out the chart. I just couldn't figure out, nobody who's not a fireman, and I don't even know if other fire departments do what we do, but when you get the calendar and you look at all the numbers, I'm like, this looks like Greek to me.
It's like hieroglyphics.
Oh my God. I didn't know what was going on. I just kept staring at it. And he was like, all right, so you're 15 in. So you're in here, and here. And I was just like, I better talk to Macanachi. He's going to figure this out. Because John had gone to Columbia. He was a Columbia grad. And then he became a New York City fireman. So I'm like, he's smart. I'll figure it out. Hopefully we're in the same groups. And he was like, yeah, so I think you're in tomorrow night. You come in tomorrow night. And I was like, all right. And he goes, go upstairs. He goes and see the boss. He's in the same groups as you. He's working tonight. He'll be working tomorrow night. And I got to tell you something. I was like, oh my goodness, here I am. I'm walking the firehouse for the first time. And I walked up those stairs and the first office, the truck office, right? And I look in and there's this guy there and he looks at me and he's got a mustache like this and a bald head. And it was Captain Mike Bradley. And Mike Bradley was a 38 truck guy, a rescue guy. I don't know how many medals. The guy had more medals down the front of his jacket and shirt.
Right.
Like he was in the Navy, he was in the Army, he was in the Guard. He eventually he was a captain with us. He was a lieutenant somewhere else in the Bronx, a fireman in 38, and then he became a chief in the 4th Battalion. And he was just an amazing officer and the sweetest guy. And he kind of looked at me and he said, what are you looking for? And I was like, the engine office. And he went, it's down the hall. And he goes, are you the new guy? And I said, I'm the new guy. And he goes, are you Irish? And I went, I'm Irish. He goes, you're the luckiest fucking bastard in the whole world. and I walked down the hall and it's a low ceiling, and the door on the right, I'll never forget it. The door on the right is the bunk room. And then you walk by and then there's a study room and then the lockers open up and it goes. And I walked down the hall and there was the engine office. And I walked in the engine office and I knocked on the door and I said, probationary firefighter James Hanlon. And I looked over and it was a 5'6" guy with short brown hair, very cropped to the side. And he was sitting back and he had his feet up on the desk, army boots. And he had the stock of a gun, and he had a long, like a round metal thing, and he was going like this, really slow. And he looked up at me and he goes, "What's your name?" And he was like this, doing it. He was going, blowing it, and he goes, and I said, "Probationary firefighter James Hanlon," and he goes, "Oh fuck, you're Irish." And I said, yes, sir, I'm Irish. And he goes, "Oh fuck, he's not another one." And then he said, and he goes, all right, Hanlon. He says, what group are you in? And I said, whatever, group 15. And he goes, all right, that's my group. He said, whenever I'm working, you're working. He goes, I do straight tours. I don't do 24s, but you're not allowed to do them anyway. He goes, so you're going to work with me. And I said, "Can we talk about stuff like this on? I'm not because what he said to me next is pretty."
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Okay, so we start talking, and he says, "What'd you do before you got here?" And I go, "Oh, I was working at the New York Daily News, sir." And then he goes like this, "Yeah, the New York Daily News." He goes, "What'd you do there?" And I said, "Well, I was working in the advertising department, yada yada yada. I was doing a little driving, this and that, odd jobs there, yada." And he goes, "How'd you get that?" And I go, "Oh, my parents worked there, and then my uncle." And he goes, "Oh God, okay." And then he goes, "You have any trades?"
Right.
And
can you hammer a nail?
Yeah. Once again,
I hope you didn't say acting. I hope you did.
I did. I did. I don't know why, but I was
because you didn't learn the first time.
And when he said trade, I went this. I said, "Well, I've done a couple of plays." His head snapped up, and he looked at me, and he goes, "You mean like theater?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're an actor." And I said, yeah, I'm an actor. And I was, I'm trying to be, but," and he goes, "Oh, you're trying to be." And he goes, "I got something for you." And he goes, "Do you like to read?" And I go like this, and I go, "Yeah, sure." And he opens up the drawer, and he goes, "Do you have your books?" He goes, "You have your reading material with you?" And I said, "Yeah, I got to read all the stuff as the thing." He goes, "Don't worry about that." He said, "I'll teach you all that." He goes, "You'll learn on the job." He says, he goes, "We're going to catch some good work in Chinatown." He says, "Everything's going to be great. Don't worry about a thing." He's like, "But I want you to read this." And he takes 2 magazines, and he takes them and he throws them on the thing. And he goes, "Open that up there, actor boy." And I look at this magazine, and I'm looking at the cover, and I'm like, "That's an ugly looking woman." And I'm just like, and I'm like, "Whoa." And all of a sudden I open it up, and it's a fucking Chicks with Dicks fucking magazine. And I said, "Holy Jesus, Mary and Joseph." I'm like, "All right, so here comes the haze." And he goes, "I want a book report on that." He goes, "I want you to go through it, take it home with you tonight, Hanlon." He goes, "And I want a book report." He goes, "I want it on my desk." He goes, "By tomorrow night." And I looked at him and I said, "I got to bring this home?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "You're going to bring that home."
Oh, shit.
And I was like, "Oh, my God." I was just like, here we go. And then we talked about a couple of other things. And then I left. And I had that magazine I put in my pocket. I was like, I should throw it in this garbage. But if I throw it in the garbage and then I come back tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen, and yada, yada, yada. And he was my officer. And his name was Charlie Naran. And he was a tunnel rat in Vietnam.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. His first tour, he was a sniper. And then he came back. And he was living in Brooklyn, and he's got an incredible story. And that's like one of the things for me as a firefighter that I realized. I go into the fire department, and I start meeting guys like you, both of you, and like Charlie Naran and Johnny McConaughey, and all these people, and everybody's got a story.
Got a different story, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're amazing.
And they're doing the same job. Like, it's such a weird thing, right? Like, so many different walks of life.
Yeah, and everybody's got a different thing going on. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is like, so I'm like a fly on the wall, and I'm starting to take all this in. And like, I get Charlie's story out of him within like the first year while I'm on probation. And I caught amazing jobs with them. And, every time we caught a fire, we'd pull up and it'd be blowing out the window. He'd jump off the rig and he'd say, "Get in there, you cowards." He'd stretch in line, and he was just a great guy. But he had been an upstate guy, I think, or somewhere, in the country. And he used to say things like, "Hanlon, I could kill a squirrel at 2,000 yards. He goes, and he was a hunter, and he was a great guy. And most of the officers that I would work with and the chiefs, they were all Vietnam guys. They were Korea War guys. It was kind of like at the end of that era.
Yeah.
They were amazing. And
so calm under pressure, right?
Oh my God. Like, I remember the first job I went to, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die in here." And all of them, every one of them, they were like making jokes but they were moving and this and that and saying things, and everything was calm as a cucumber. Like, and I was just like, what are these guys? They're going to kill me. These guys are going to kill me. I'm going to die here, and it was an amazing experience. And he had been, I think, a sniper in Vietnam. He'd come back. He couldn't fit in. He was living in Brooklyn. And then he went back and he was a tunnel rat. And then he came back, and then his first firehouse was either 217 or 222.
Busy places, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And then he had like nowhere to live or something like that. And he moved into like in Brooklyn into a brothel, and they gave him free. He lived there for free. And then he would like make sure nobody would mess with anybody. He had that, that mustache back. You look at his picture, he had longer hair, the 70s guys,
Yeah.
all those pictures. And he was a phenomenal officer. And I loved him. And he was so calm. We were at a fire one time, and well, I'll tell this story first. This one happened before that, but we had a fire on. There was a bunch of every Sunday night was the best night to work in my firehouse. It was the greatest. I mean, I loved working Sundays so much because there was always fires, and there was fires in Chinatown, and there was fires, in different parts of downtown. And we went through a stretch, where there was a lot of arson fires. And one of the arson fires was the Lerner Street fire. Remember Lieutenant Lerner from 6?
Yeah.
Great firehouse, 6, the Tigers. Really, really great guys. And that happened on Worth Street. And he died. He was in the basement. They found him in the basement. But the guy who set that fire was going around, and he was setting fires, and he was setting them every Sunday night. And he was an arsonist, and he was going through the neighborhood, and nobody, like, we all knew about it, but like it wasn't being broadcast on the news or anything like that. Nobody was talking about it. But every Sunday night, this guy was going around, and he would start fires in alleyways throughout Chinatown and downtown. And he would, start them here, start them there, and then a couple of blocks, start another one, and then he would go light a bigger fire. And we were coming back from 2 smaller fires, and it was early in the morning, and we turned onto Broadway, coming back down Broadway off a canal. And as we were driving by, I'll never forget, I looked out the window to the right, and it was blowing out the whole first floor of a loft building. And I was like, there's a kind of a famous picture of it somebody took. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I've never seen this much fire. And I had the nozzle. And I'll never forget, Gary Kavakis was driving. He stopped. And Charlie was the officer. And he went, holy shit, back up. And we backed up. And we pulled up and stretched the line. We stretched to 2.5. The whole entire first floor was going. There was a mattress going up to the front. He had lit a mattress on. And it was on its way to the second floor, and I had the nozzle, and we went in, we started knocking it down, and we went in probably like 15, 20 feet, and you could just see the whole thing was going. And I burned my knees. I burned my left knee a little bit, but I burned my right knee. And we had remember when we got on the job, we just had the boots and like the raincoat? Yeah, like the jacket. We just had a jacket and the boots, and I forgot to pull my boot up on the right side, and I kind of burned my knee. We went in and we were trying to operate, and then rigs are pulling up, and that fire goes to like a 4th, 5th alarm.
Wow.
And tower ladders, blah, 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 everything's happening. And at one point, Charlie says to me, come on, let's go. Come with me, because I'm like a probie. And we go into the building next door. And he says, let's just start checking the floors. And we're going in. And we get to the top floor, up the stairs, because they would have the to the first floor, long stairway to the second floor, the old wooden stair. And the whole building's full of textiles. It's all textiles. We get to the top floor, we're walking around. And when I mean, these are huge high ceilings, like 20-foot ceilings, and it's packed to the ceiling, and we're walking through things. And he gets all the way to the back, and he's like, we got to go. And I said, what? And he goes, turn around, start moving. Because now it's in this building. We're in the building next door. And the back window pops, and everything starts burning. And we get to the stairways, and he looks down, and there's just fire coming around. And it's wrapping out of I forget what floor it was. And he looks at me, and he goes, follow me. And we go there's a ladder that goes up to, like a scuttle.
Scuttle?
Yeah. And so he goes there. He goes, let's just go get up on the roof and then we'll hop to the next roof. Follow me. He's like, real calm, just follow me. And he goes up the thing, and I'll never forget it. I got up behind him, and we're still surrounded by textiles, but now I can't see him. I can only feel his boots, and I can't see him. He's on the ladder in front of me. And he goes, oh, fuck. He says, I think it's tarred over. Like, because the top, they tarred over on the roof part. And he's banging with his officer's tool. And he's banging and he's banging. And he's like, oh, shit. And then I felt it. And I felt like he was getting a little, like,
jumpy.
This is getting a little,
yeah.
This is not good, And I'm like, if he's feeling it's not good, my heart's like, doing one of these.
Plus, he's about 8 feet higher than you, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is not good. And then I'm like, I'm trying to get my mask and put my mask on because now I can't breathe. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have a mask on. Like he hasn't put it on. And he's banging and banging and banging. And all of a sudden I hear other banging. And then all of a sudden I hear a saw. And he goes, don't worry, we're fine. Like that. He goes, we're going to be all right. He goes, just get up here next to me. And he like pulls me up and we're both like on this little ladder. There's all his textiles around us. And I can look over now and I can see like it's all orange. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, this is not good at all. I mean, I'm like, this could be it, thinking maybe I should have became a priest. But and all of a sudden they cut the thing open and they cut it up but he pops it out. He pushes me up first, like by him. And I come out. And when I look up on the roof is Rescue 1. And they just cut the whole scuttle and the thing off and ripped it back. And the guy goes, hey, kid, Proby. And then Charlie comes up behind and I look over and the guy with the saw over there, he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Angelini?
Joey Angelini.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Joey Angelini. And I don't know if they ever got a medal for that or whatever, but they saved the two of our lives. I got to tell you that. And
no shit.
And that was my kind of first, like, holy smackers, milk and crackers. That was really close. And this is a real job.
Job gets serious as a heart attack real fast. You're going for Italian ices and you're going.
One minute you're going for lemon ice, the next minute you shit yourself.
Yeah, and and when as soon as I got to the firehouse, also, that was a crazy stretch right there because we had 28 people. I think it was 28 deaths from when I came on the job until 9/11.
Yes, same. Yes,
and it was just fire after fire after fire after funeral after funeral, and
I used to remember them all that whole stretch: McLaughlin, Valentino, Lerner, Drennan, right? Seidenberg, all those guys.
Wylie, I was at the Wylie Fire. Yeah. I was at the Wylie Fire. And I remember that, and I just thought, wow, this is a real job. And when I came into the firehouse, the Watt Street fire had just happened.
Right.
And I remember because there were two guys in my firehouse, Otto, Neil Trondo, and Nini Vada, and they carried Jimmy Young's body out, what was left of him. And that was a crazy fire because, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows that fire, or your audience, but it was kind of a change of tours, and guys were in the engine in the truck. And you know how we switch sometimes. You're going to go into a night tour, you're going to be working the truck, you're going to be working in the engine. And they kind of did that in the street, I think, before somebody was going to get the meal. And then they caught that job. And Captain Drennan, who was this huge guy, was like 6'4", big captain guy. And they were on the inside with him. And they went to that fire, which was a small building, kind of over there in the village. And that's a great firehouse, 24/5. I mean, that's a really great firehouse. And that fire happened, and the three of them got trapped on the floor above. And they had just polyurethaned all of the floors. And you know how that these guys would come polyurethane the floors, and then they leave the bags of the dust, and then they combust, because they're all that heat and everything. And I don't know if that's how the fire started, but I've been to fires like that. But they got caught on the floor above, and all three of them. Well, the two of them Jimmy died right away. Chris died a few days later, and then as
The
Mike
captain
Daly,
was like 40 days. Yeah.
it was 40 days. Mike Daly, the great Daily News reporter, who was good friends with Patty Brown and Michael Judge and all those guys. He's a great reporter. I don't know how he's never won a Pulitzer. He wrote a really great article about Drennan and how it was like biblical 40 days that he survived that much. And I remember, that I remember that because back at the firehouse, I remember Neil and Nini's face, and they didn't really say much or talk about it. And it was just like, that was real. And I knew guys that were at that fire, and we ran with them all the time. And here's, Nini. I mean, he was a probie at the time. And, Nini retired as a chief or a captain recently. Great fireman. Both of them. Neil, great fireman. Nini, a great fireman. And that they were at that. And the crazy thing about that was 40 days later, we were doing honor guards in the first division, standing outside his hospital room. And I volunteered, and so I went up, and I was in the burn center. And I remember getting up there a little early, and I walked into the burn center, and I'd never been to the burn center. And if anybody doesn't know what the burn center is up in Cornell, it's probably the greatest burn center in the world. And amazing stuff. And you go in there, and the minute you meet doctors and nurses, especially the nurses, they're just the nicest people with, positive and great. And I remember walking in, and I was walking down the hallway, and I was like, I had to release one of the honor guards, and a ball kind of bounced off the wall and came down and landed in front of me, like just a ball. And I picked it up, and I was just like, what is this? And this kid came running around the corner, and he was a little kid. He was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and he had a full mask on, and he's, in his hand, he had a mitt over one hand where I don't know if he lost his fingers or not, but his face was really burned because he had that compression mask on. And he came running around the corner, and he stopped, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and it was just like the expression was like, he just stopped to see, how am I going to react? And I looked at him, and I went, are you a baseball player? And he kind of like, tilted his head, and I said, ready to catch? And I tossed him the ball, and he caught the ball with the one hand, and then he took off. And I was like, and then all of a sudden I was walking around, and then his dad was there with him. And then he ran into a room. And then I saw they had like some animals, like dogs and puppies and stuff. And I didn't realize that they use that with the kids, because like animals won't judge, what you look like if you're burned or not and stuff. And they use that as therapy for the kids. But I remember the dad looking at me, and he was like, hey, fireman. He was like, thanks a lot. And then he was just like, yeah, it's been rough. And I just looked at him, and then I walked around the corner, and I relieved the honor guard, and I met another guy there, Chris Ward, who's a fireman in my firehouse. And we stood honor guard outside Drennan's room. And that was the day he died.
Oh, shit.
And so it's kind of crazy. Here I am, this young kid, kind of new to the firehouse, going to the fire already. That happens. And now this, and 2 guys that died. I've been to the funerals, and then we're there. And all of a sudden, Patty Brown shows up with Vina Drennan. And they walk in. And this is Patty Brown. And I mean, I'm brand new on the job, so I don't know a lot of people. But I've already heard this guy's name.
Yeah, this guy's name is always.
And I have to say this is crazy, because in my life, I've always said, you never judge a book by its cover, right? So here, you always think of a fireman, that people go, oh, did you see the calendar? Did you see this? You think these guys are like 9 feet tall with, but the bravest guys I've ever met, Joe Angelini's got to be 5'5", 5'6", maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. And Patty Brown's like 5'7", 5'8". Charlie Naran, 5'7", 5'8". Just like, not the guy you would ever think,
right,
that would be like the bravest soul that you've ever met in your life. But if your own family was in danger, like these are 3 guys
that's the guys you want coming, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Please God, send these 3 guys. You know what I mean? Please. And so he comes walking in, and I think he was a newly made, either lieutenant or captain. I think that he had done the roof rescue with Patty Barnes. You know, remember that famous roof rescue where they couldn't tie off?
With Kevin Shea too.
Yeah, those guys. And so, and I was kind of in the paper, and I kind of remember. And he walks in with Vina Drennan, who couldn't be nicer. I mean, the woman was just the nicest.
We had her on the show.
We had her on the show. She's a saint.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and imagine that what your husband's going through, and you're going in the room and everything. And I hadn't been in the room. We weren't allowed to go in the room.
Right.
We were just standing outside to make sure nobody comes around, no press, no anything like that. And they go in because the doctors were coming in and coming out. And we were like, oh, something's going on. And then they show up and they go in the room, and they're in there for a while. And then all of a sudden, Patty Brown comes out, and he goes, you two, what's your name? I tell him my name. Chris tells me my name. He goes, come with me. And we go inside, and there's Captain Drennan. And he's this big, tall guy who's in this kind of suspension bed. He's burned extremely badly. You know what I mean? I mean, he's swollen. I mean, it's just, you can only imagine. And so, and I had never seen anything like that. You know what I mean? And Patty Brown says, put your hand on his body. So we put our hands on his body, and we all said a Hail Mary. It's like, whew, you know, and then he stands there and gives this speech to us like, this is the greatest job in the world. This man right here is an American hero. You'll never meet a man like him again. A man like this will never walk the earth again. What a hero. What a great man. He goes, every day you step into the firehouse and you go to work, just remember that you're the luckiest person in the world, and you're here to save people and help people. And he goes like this, take this number, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can call this number, whatever. It was like a dispatch or something. They'll get in touch with me if you need anything. Stand outside this room and make sure nobody, and I mean nobody, comes in this room. And he talks to us a little bit more, and he leaves with Vina. And then he came back for like a few minutes. He was like, are you guys all right? And we were like, yeah. He was like, nobody comes in the room. Do you understand? And I was like, absolutely. And he leaves. And my head is like, wow. I'm not on the job a couple of months, not even. I don't know how many months I'm on the job. And this has already happened. And I'm like, holy crap. What did I get myself into? This is like, you know.
What did you sign up for?
Yeah, this is not, you know, for the faint of heart, this job. And meanwhile, you see firemen at home and, you know, barbecues and this, that, and the other thing. And they're the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
But when they go to the firehouse, you have no idea what they are exposed to.
What they're doing. Right. Yeah.
The sacrifices that they go through.
What do we used to say all the time, Ruff? My wife knows what I do, but she
doesn't know what I do. That was I forget who said that. It was in the kitchen. I think it was in the Brothers in Battle. And he says, I forget who it was. Somebody, again, another big name. He said, somebody in the chat will put it up. He says, my family knows what I do, but they don't. I mean, I remember I was on the job for like almost 15, 20 years. And I had cousins of mine still say, have you ever been to any big fires? I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, what do you think is going on here? You know what I mean? You think you're just shopping all the time? Like, what are you doing?
Well, that's what they see. They see you in the supermarket joking around, and you know.
Have you been to any big fires? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because even back at the firehouse, there's, you know, you go out, you go over things, you know, at the board in the back and everything, and the guys talk and this and that and the other thing. But then it's kind of like everybody goes off into their thing. And that's it. You're not really delving into everything that you just saw. And I mean, I kind of had this career where I worked with like these amazing men. I used to call them giant bumblebees because, you know, they'd show up in the, you know, we'd all show up in the black. And I'd say, here come the bumblebees, you know, and they were these larger than life guys that I was surrounded by. And I got to go there every day. And I just was like, wow. And then you meet other guys on the job and legends, and you see them all. And I've always felt like this kind of fly on the wall, and that would experience all this and see all these things. And I was just like, I say it all the time, and I recently said it because I live in this neighborhood, and we have like I call it the bodega of our neighborhood. It's not a bodega because I live out in Los Angeles by the beach, and it's not a bodega. It's kind of nice, but I see these young kids.
Oh, it's an LA bodega.
Yeah.
It's a hoity-toity bodega.
Yeah.
And so. But and I always go, I'm going over to the bodega. I'm like, people are like, bodega, what are you talking about? And it's there's no cat sitting on a
on the loaf of bread
on the window. A couple of things are like laundry detergent, Wonder Bread, and then like a cat.
Yeah.
But
with the Spanish music playing in the background.
Yeah.
The whole time he's checking you out, he's on the phone to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of milk crates all over the place. Empty milk crates.
Shit.
And then he makes you a sandwich like a melted ham and cheese, and he uses like an iron,
like an iron. Yeah.
And they're the best sandwiches. But so I say to these kids sometimes, and I go, "How old are you?" And they look at me and they're like, "Oh, I'm 18 or I'm 20." And I go, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "I don't know. I work here." And I was like, "Take a job, become a fireman, do something." And they're like, "Oh, you think I could do that?" I said, "Buddy, you'd be the happiest guy for the rest of your life."
Yeah.
I was like, "Learn a trade, get something, do something." And I mean, I didn't know any trades. I ended up coming into the firehouse.
What are you talking about? You were an actor.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. That was my trade. I'd be like yapping in the kitchen as everybody's cutting vegetables, and they'd be like, "Oh, this guy's not going to shut up." And
Hollywood Hanlon. I love it.
Yeah.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
But after that event happened, I was like, "Oof, this is not a joke. This job,
Those are things that change you forever, brother. No
Yeah.
Yep.
And I often look at it that like you guys, like all the stuff that you've seen, all the places that you worked, and you worked in all these busy places, and we go throughout our day, and I'm like, all this stuff that's in our head, and I'm like, nobody knows.
No.
Nobody knows. Nobody has a clue, But yet we walk through life and we're happy because we're like, well, we made it through that.
I think that's what brings the brothers together so much, because we know what each other does, and we're tight like that. You know what I mean? We gravitate towards each other. That's why from the outside looking in, people are like, that's strange, because
that's why the military guys are tight, right? If you go to work together, like where somebody could die, I think it bonds you, you know what I mean? Like, because you're trusting somebody all the time, right? Like we say it all the time. Like I remember when, getting back to what you said, getting on the job, I didn't know. I mean, Kubes' family, he knew where, his whole family was on the job. I lived through him with his family, but when I got to the firehouse, I had no idea. Yeah. And then to watch guys, like you said, have the captain drag you along and watch this like play go on. Everybody's an actor, right? Somebody's going to the window, somebody's going here, somebody's
orchestrated in the back. Chaos, brother.
It's like incredible. And meanwhile, everybody thinks if you're just looking from the outside, it looks like just a mad rush into the building.
Breaking shit and
but I mean, when you think about how many people have to trust, you're going on the floor above. You got to trust. There's a lot of trust there for guys that you might, maybe it's not your engine in your firehouse. Like you got to trust that. So I think that's when you go into a life and death situation like that. I don't know if cops probably get that too, but I think it's more with military, obviously. So
I think it's anybody who see the same things. Like we've all witnessed the same things, so we all have that mentality, which draws us to one another. You know what I mean? Like bonds.
You got to be a little crazy.
A little bit.
There was a movie one time with Timothy Hutton and this other actor and
Turk 182.
Yeah, and when he describes his brother, the older brother, he said, "What is your brother?" He said, "Oh, he's a mentally unstable psychopath." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." He goes, "No, he's a New York City fireman."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true.
Dude, I seen some guys do some crazy stuff, man.
Crazy
like
shit, man. Yeah.
I mean, some like balls to the wall stuff, like incredible moves. Like you would be like, holy mackerel, like what the heck? Yeah. But that's not everybody.
Think of this. Think of how many times, and you probably go like this. How many times you were at a job? Because I know so many times I was at a job, and I think of very specific guys too that saved my life. And not like just like right there, just someone like, hey, don't do that, come here, do this.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
no doubt.
And then
No doubt.
happened, and I was like,
we get so lucky too, right? I mean, how many times you get lucky? You walk over here, air conditioner falls like right next to you from 10 floors up or some shit. Like, it's
Steve
so
Rogers,
true.
I stuck my head out the back of off the fire escape.
So
and
true.
He pushed me right in the shoulder, and he pushed me, and I swear I was gonna punch him in the head like, you fucking mother, fucking, what'd you do that for? Like, he shoved me, and right by my head, a fucking couch, like it would have cut my head off. Like, just came flying down because there was some company on the top floor, and they were just throwing shit
out the window. Yeah,
what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And
I think that's the most dangerous time. I mean,
oh my God.
So many guys got hit with shit. Like, that was a pet peeve
guy,
of
I
mine
want to
too.
say his name. Maybe he threw a door out and it went down like a piece of paper. Whoop, and it hit a lieutenant. Boom.
It went like this.
Yeah. Bam.
I remember being in the street one time, and it was snowing, and it was around Christmas time, and we went north, and we ran in with like 20 truck, and it was somewhere like right in Soho, up near 55. We used to run in first and second to a 55 all the time, and all the manholes were going because of the salt and the water and the yada yada yada, and a fucking manhole. They started really kind of popping.
Yeah.
And you got to go inside, and you got to go downstairs,
check the CO, right?
The power off, and yada yada yada. And we were standing there, and it was snowing, and all of a sudden one went like this down the block, and went poof, and went up, and the next one went up, and then the third one went up, and it came down. And these are giant manholes. I mean, you never seen so many guys just
running.
Like cockroaches, like
guys always used to say, you got to look up. Yeah, bullshit. Everybody's running for their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you just go, this is just insane. It's just too funny. I mean,
what makes you eventually want to go across to the truck?
Well, I came from a firehouse. We had a lot of smart guys, and there was just one. I was trying to get out of my firehouse. I was trying to go to I was putting my paper in for rescue when I was a probie. I was like, I'm going to go to rescue. Like,
yeah, right.
I didn't know the protocol. I didn't know. I saw Joe Angelini at a Christmas party, and I was just like, hey, you're Joe Angelini. Yeah. And he was best friends with Jimmy Barry. And Jimmy Barry was like the green hand. He was like the guy who ran our firehouse. He was the chief. Like every firehouse has one of those guys. And Jimmy Barry, ex-Army guy, just a leader. He ran everything. Everything went through the green hand. And
the green hand, I like it.
Yeah, the green hand, the Irish firehouse. And he was just a super duper guy. And he was friends with Joe. And Joe would come back to the Christmas parties because Joe Angelini did 20 years in Ladder 1. And then from Ladder 1, he went to rescue. And I think he did another 20. And then, he passed away, of course, on 9/11. And there's a story about that a lot of people don't know, like his last moments on 9/11. I'll mention it because it happened between him and a guy in my firehouse, Stevie Olson, who was like the blackest cloud you'll ever meet in your life. Stevie Olson, oh my God, what a great fireman. And but I went up to him and I was like, I want to go to rescue. And I'll never say he had the cigarette. And he goes, how much time you got on? And I was just like, 8 months. And he was like, all right, kid, come back and talk to me in 9 years. And I kept putting my paper in for all these places. And then Jimmy Barry one day came to me and he goes, you've put your paper in like 4 times. Like he didn't know. And he was like, you want out of this firehouse? I'll get you out of this fucking firehouse. And I was like, uh-oh, now I'm in trouble. And he's like, I mean, it's like true. Like now you get sent to City Island, get a fishing pole. But I ended up staying, and the guys from the truck, they were really smart, and they were getting promoted, and Captain Bradley was there, and he was a great guy, and I loved him. And I was like, all right. And then Johnny Mac was like, come over to the truck. So I put my paper in and I got across. And it just, I loved it. I love being in the engine. I mean, the engine's great. You get in there. I mean, we had an engine company with a lot of senior good guys and really good nozzle men. And they'd always grab the knob and I'd have the backup of the control. And I'm like, I want to kind of,
That's
I want to do something else, and I want to get in there. And these guys were really talented, and they were all good tradesmen and Gargiso, Greg Gargiso was great with tools, and Tony Marino was a phenomenal truck guy, and Johnny O'Neill, God rest his soul, he was phenomenal, and all these guys, and Stevie Olson, and I wanted to learn from them because they were all tradesmen and they were all really good. And the great thing about Ladder One was that we were a tower ladder, and the tower ladder just got to go to a lot more jobs. And that's that picture. That's Frankie Esposito, great guy. That's Bubba Meineke, Donnie Meineke. He went to 126. Frankie, great guy, fantastic fireman, both of them. And that's me with my red hair back in the day. This is a great picture. I mean, we got a bunch of really good guys all in here. That's me in the white T-shirt with a beer in my hand. There's Dennis Noonan next to me, right next to me. He saved my life at the Water Street fire with Patty Brown. I'll tell you that later, that story. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be here. In that last picture was Richie Nappy. He died in the fire in Queens.
Oh, yes, I remember him, yes.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal kid. He was a great guy.
Where was he? Was he in 221? Was he? I don't remember the companies. No, maybe not.
He was got made lieutenant.
He was lieutenant.
There.
Right.
Yeah. And he was a great fireman. We used to call him Yappy Nappy, Richie. He was the only guy I think that talked more than me. And he was just phenomenal. And the guy on the far end was Johnny O'Neill. And John right there, standing with his hands on his hips. He's just
237.
I mean, all these guys were great firemen. The guy in the soccer player there in the soccer shirts, Glenn Rodemacher, he's the chief. Greg Gargiso in the middle. Stevie Rogers, just retired, 41 years on the job. Phenomenal fireman, just tough as balls, that guy. And Nicky Barillo, a chief, great fireman. And then Johnny O was at the first bombing in 93 when Big John Casey was the chief. And he was in that bombing. He crawled down. He went to go down to find Kevin Shea. And Mikey Babino was there with Mad Dog Brown. We had this lieutenant. He was another Vietnam guy. They
Mad
both
Dog
got medals.
Brown.
Yeah, we used to call him Mad Dog Brown because he would corner you in the corner and then start screaming at you. And the crazy thing is he looks exactly like Steve Martin.
Oh, does he?
Oh, my God.
So his picture in the back of the firehouse when he got his medal in his pictures, his hat is tilted. He's got the mustache, and everybody goes, "Is that Steve Martin?"
That's awesome.
He was a great guy, and they had medaled from the 93 one, and John was at that one. And then on 9/11, John was the chauffeur, and he kind of made a pivotal call when they were on like the 35th or 34th floor. And they were coming down and they went to kind of cut across, and he stopped them and he said, "No, we're going down this way and we're leaving now. I'm the last guy, go." And they all started going, and he kind of got out. And the only reason why they lived was because, I don't know you've seen probably the film, and when Pfeiffer says the staging area will be at Weston Vesey. And because I was from the 1st Battalion, you know where Weston Vesey is. And then Gansey and all the other guys were staged across a little further down. So if you were at Weston Vesey and you were coming out and you went that way, then you lived. If you got out before the building started coming down. And he survived that, John, but he was a big reason why they got out. And then he just, within like 3 years, he got cancer and it spread throughout his whole body.
Holy shit.
So let's go back to that. Now, were you working that day? You weren't working that day.
No, I wasn't working that day. We were filming, and we had been in the World Trade Center the night before. And
so for the guys who don't know, what were you filming?
Well, if you want to go straight to that, we could do that. But I could tell you about some earlier fires and stuff,
sure,
like Wylie and then the Water Street fire.
I
can tell you about it. I was pretty fortunate that I worked with a lot of really great guys, and I got to go to a lot of work, with Ladder One, and I got to go to a lot of really good jobs, and in Chinatown, because Chinatown's got the most of me. I think I worked a lot of places and a lot of details because guys, had families, and I was a single kid, I was a young guy, and so when there was a detail, they would say, hey, there's a detail to the Bronx, 19 truck. You want to go? And then you get up to 19 truck, and they're like, no, you're going into the engine, 50 across the floor.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, great. Or you're going to 290 tonight. You're going to 103. You get to 103. They're like, yeah.
You're going.
So I'm going to 290. Like, no, now you're going to whatever. Across the borough.
323 down the road.
Yeah.
So you're gone. And so I did a lot of that. And I got to work in amazing firehouses around the city, and I got to go to a lot of good. I caught good work. I caught an amazing job one night in 147, and then we went back again.
Good
and then
firehouse.
We went back again because it was a crack house, and every time we put the fire out, and we left. The neighbors
started up
Got to
again.
get the crackheads out of there. Yeah.
I remember going around the rear the second time, and they were throwing bricks at us, and I was like, "Why are they throwing bricks at us?" A bunch of loonies. But Chinatown had some of the most amazing work. I mean, it was just, there were sweatshops, and there were, they would cage the people in, and at night they would lock people in, and you'd pull up to, a door and pop a door and go upstairs, and then there would be a roll down gate. And you'd be like, and we used to bring the saw. And so you'd cut that, and then you'd put that up, and then there would be another gate, and you'd get through that lock and then through the door, and you go in. And then there's 30 people living in a one bedroom, and they would do the bed 15 inches above the ground, 15 inches above, 15 inches above, almost like you were in a Navy ship, and they would do it in a horseshoe around the room, and they would sleep two sometimes, and they would keep their stuff in a bag near their head, and that's how the people were living, and they were keeping them in there like slaves, and they were the workers. And we would go to these fires, and it would be crazy, and
a lot of big loft buildings too, right? Crazy loft.
I would say the only jobs I didn't want to go to was the Chinatown jobs.
Triple subcellar.
It was always some crazy, there'd be a fire on the second floor, it'd be fire coming out the seventh floor. It'd be like, it was always got some. It would always be third, 3, 4, 5, 5th alarm all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I got to work with great guys. I remember we would, go in first and second due with like Jay Jonas. He was in Ladder 6. He was an amazing officer, and he was the calmest guy once again at a fire. I remember being at a fire one time, and we were in a sub basement, and I bumped into him, and I was just like, and I lifted up my mask, and he went, "Jimmy." And I went, "Oh, Cap." And he went, "Come this way." And he's just calm as a cucumber.
Yeah.
And they were really great fires. I mean, and you had to be really, really good at taking, windows and gates and bars and knowing what to bring and what tools to bring. And after Mike Bradley left and he got made chief and he went to the 4th Battalion and he's up with, 18 truck, we got a great captain in Fred Zarilli. And he had been in 4 truck in, back in the day when Hell's Kitchen was Hell's Kitchen, and he was this big, tall guy that looked like, Tom Selleck. Just big, tall. I remember coming in, he was an Italian guy, and we were like, he's Italian? We got an Italian coming here? And we just loved him. We loved him. And he was a phenomenal officer. And you guys probably know this, because what ranks did you guys reach?
I was lieutenant.
And that's it. He was lieutenant.
Yeah, and like when you're a boss and you want to, and that it's busy, and you start hearing stuff on the radio, and you're like, well, let's just drive over that way, and he was one of those guys. He'd be like, guys, get on the rig, let's go. And we'd be like, what? He goes, you're not listening to the radio? And like, there would be a job going on, and we would, and then he would pull up, he'd go, get off the rig. We'd walk up and he'd be like, hey, Mike. And they'd be like, hey, how you doing, Fred? And boom, we do me a favor, search the floor. It's just like, and he just got us involved in everything. And we loved
I like this guy.
Oh, he was phenomenal. And all the officers they were just great guys, great chiefs, and I remember being a young guy, and we got a call one night, and we were on the way to the box, and it was 18 truck, and it was the Wylie Fire, and it was on Kruger. I think it was Kruger Street or Kruger Ave over in Chinatown. And as we were stretching a line off in the street, they were carrying his body out, Thomas Wylie, and he was a probie, and I think I didn't even have a year on. I think I had like 11 months, and I had the nozzle, and we were going in like a very tight alleyway in the back, and we were going to try to come around because I guess they had cockfights and gambling den in there and all this stuff in the basement. There was all this kind of stuff going on, and somebody must have lost or something. Somebody said that later, and they just doused the place with compound buckets of gasoline, and just torched the place. And that was the kind of thing they would do in Chinatown. Somebody would go to the top of the bulkhead and push down a compound bucket of gasoline and then light the place on fire.
Somebody in the chat before, I don't know if it's 100%, but they said his son is on the job now. Wylie's son is in 3 Truck. I don't know if that's somebody put it in the chat before. I saw it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool if that's the case.
3 Truck is that's a great firehouse. That's a really good firehouse.
They run their ass off over there, man.
Yeah, I remember going to that firehouse one night. We caught a really good job and a bunch of SROs, and Mikey Carroll was on the inside with me. Jeff Giordano was there. I think Jimmy Wynn. I forget who the boss was. I don't think it was Patty Brown that night, but no, somebody else. And I just remember thinking, wow, these guys are good. They're like so tight, and they were really good. It was a great firehouse, and I think maybe at the time Captain Jost became a chief, and I think he was Captain Jost. I think he was in the 6th Battalion at the time, and I thought to myself, wow, what a firehouse. What a bunch of guys, But that Wylie Fire, we went around the back, and it was just fully involved. We started pushing in, and the hallway collapsed in towards the basement. And I remember Larry Burns was there, the chief from the 9/11 film that he came back. And he was there, and Greg Bierster was there. I think Greg, he was working with the chief that night as a battalion aide. He ended up becoming the captain of 5 Engine and then maybe a chief. He was a great guy, Greg. And Larry was amazing. And I just remember the whole time we were in the back, hitting the fire. And I was like, I wonder if that guy's all right. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And then when we got back to the firehouse, they were like, this guy's in really bad shape, and then he passed away. So it was like one thing after another. And like you're saying, I think it's 28 deaths that we went to.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, I got on in May of '93, so it was the same as you. Like it was, and Kubes. Like, I remember almost, I could rattle them off there for a while, like because there was one. We had a couple every year, it was like 3 or 4 a year, Somebody mentioned Captain Smith from 136, McLaughlin, Valentino,
Louis Valentino.
It was just the guy I was thinking about before was 221. Lieutenant passed away there. I forget what his name was. Was it Shearer? Something like that.
Might have been. I think I printed some of them out.
Scheibel.
That's who it was. But let's talk about, because we're an hour and a half in. Let's talk about the
documentary.
First.
I mean, there was the Water Street Fire with Patty Brown before that, which was a crazy fire. But I can come back another time and talk about that. But I was on the job like 10, 11 years, and I was just surrounded by all of these, like, I used to call them the giant bumblebees, these heroes and these guys. And in the firehouse, every guy had a story. I mean, if it was Tony Marino cooking in the kitchen, rolling meatballs, talking to meatballs, and, every Sunday night we would eat sleeping pills. We would go up to Little Italy. Everybody would get 9 sleeping pills, which were raviolis. He'd make sweet sausage, regular.
My mouth's
sausage.
watering already.
I know. And then the meatballs, and no one was allowed in the kitchen. Nobody. Except he would allow me in there because I would make mixtapes of Frank Sinatra, and he was a great guy and an amazing fireman. And I thought to myself, I was like, holy macaronis, these guys are just amazing, all these stories. And I had gone back to work and started doing, like acting jobs. And I was like, well, let me make some side. Everybody had a trade. you know, and as we were saying, you know, the plumbers, electricians, all these talented guys. I was like, maybe I can get some work, you know, as an actor. So I started doing guest stars. And I started doing guest stars on TV shows, and I was doing New York Undercover and different, you know, Law and Orders. And I would always play a guy, either a bad guy or a cop, and I would get killed. And the firemen would watch the show, and they go, "You died again!" You know, and I was getting killed on all these shows, and yada yada yada. And then one day, I'm out in Sag Harbor, and I'm with Johnny Mac, and I go out to see him, and he's at the bar, and I already had a couple, and I just got out there. I worked a day and a night. I drove out, and he's at the bar, and he's having a bunch of pops. And that was just when that guy was on Sex and the City, the fireman, and he showed his naked butt.
Right.
And they were going to fire him because he did that. And lo and behold, Sarah Jessica Parker comes walking in this place. And she walks over to a table. Yeah, and she's with, I guess, a bunch of people from the show. And they're having a good time and laughing, da-da-da-da-da. And he turns around, and, you know, Johnny Mac's a big guy, and he's like, "You got to be fucking kidding me. You're fucking getting a guy fired. You're terrible people," and blah, blah, blah. And she looks over. You know, here's Johnny Mac yelling at him. He's had a couple of pops and everything. And I'm like, "Johnny, relax. He goes, "No, this is bullshit. They're going to get that guy fired. That's a career. You can't do that to somebody." And I'll give it to her. She might be the nicest person I've ever met in Hollywood. She walks over, super sweet, and goes, "Is he okay?" And I go, yeah. She goes, "What is he talking about?" I said, "He's a New York City fireman." I was like, and he's had a couple of drinks. She's like, "You're getting a guy fired." And she's like, "What is he talking about?" And I was like, "There was a guy on your show who did an episode. And he was in the fire department, and they showed his butt. Now he's going to get fired." And she goes, "Is that true?" And I go, "Yeah, it might happen." And then she's like, comes back, and she gives me her number. And she goes, "Call me at this number." She goes, "And I want to know all the information. I'm going to make a phone call." And she did. She did it. And that was it. And he goes, you do that? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, "He used to be an actor. You should give him a job." And I'm just like, "Oh, shut up.
Shut up.
And
Maybe,
so,
but shut up. Maybe.
Yeah. So anyway, she goes off. They go back. Then on me, I give him a ride home, yada, yada, yada. And that guy didn't get fired. You know, I think she made a couple of phone calls. Super nice lady. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call, and my old agent calls me up and he goes, "Hey, you're never going to believe this, but you got a job." And I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "And it's on TV." And I'm like, "Get out of here."
And you don't die.
Yeah. And he goes, "What's the show?" And I go, "What's the show?" And he goes, "Sex and the City." And I go, "What's that?" "I'm not doing porn. I can't do porn. I'm a fireman." And then he goes, No. It's this show.
Wait a minute. Here it is.
Stay right where you are. That's the way it goes.
Is that it? Can we hear it?
Officer, please. I am a lawyer and a mother. This woman is my friend. She's an extremely law-abiding citizen.
You just broke the law.
The line,
Yes,
the famous
but
line.
In her defense, she has had a very, very bad day. Her boyfriend just broke up with her on a Post-it.
Is there any volume?
That didn't happen. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm sorry,
Don't
I
hate
can't.
me.
Don't hate me. Wow.
Wow.
Brutal.
Tell you what, I'll write you up for smoking in a bar.
Right, Jeffrey. Smoking in the bar.
Oh,
Brutal.
So
Did you get the
From
Academy
that-
Award for that?
show, which I was like, I'm not doing this. This is a chick show. From that show, for the next 20 years, whenever I go somewhere and I'm not wearing this dumb hat, and now I'm much older, and somebody sees me, sometimes these girls go, "Hey, you're the Post-it guy. You're the cop who arrested him."
No way.
And to her credit, I got that job. I was working the night tour after we shot the scene, because we shot the second part of the scene the next day. And she gave me her car to get me to work on time and said, "Take my car and go. They'll drive you in." She's the nicest lady. So anybody ever says anything about Sarah Jessica Parker, I'll knock you out, because she's
did
sweet.
you ever work with her again after that?
No. You know, I didn't die on the show, but I could have. But anyway, she's the nicest lady in Hollywood, sweetest pie. So I did that show. Yada yada yada. And
Did
I
you
was
get other
thinking,
work off that show?
yeah, I did NYPD Blue, and I worked with Sipowicz and David Milch and Mark Tinker. Like, Mark Tinker is one of the great television directors of all time. He's just like the sweetest guy. Well, he's not really a sweet guy. He's a tough guy, but he's a really nice guy. He cast me in Brooklyn South. And here's the reason why I got, this is a crazy thing, but the reason why I got the job on NYPD Blue is I was supposed to get relieved early so I could make the audition for Rosalie Josephs up at ABC. And I tell this guy, Davey, can you come in and relieve me early? Well, Davey doesn't show up. So now I'm waiting. I got to go all the way to 57th Street, and I'm on Duane Street. And all of a sudden, a run comes in. And the run's around the corner. And it says, pregnant lady under a train. Oh, I'm like, oh, here we go. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is insane. So we jump on the thing. We go around the corner. We go down. This and that and the other thing. Yep, there's somebody underneath the train. So I'm like, great. All right, here we go. We got everything. We bring everything. Patty Lyons, boom, right in between the cars, goes down. Otto, Neil, right in between the cars, goes down, right? I'm on the platform. I'm standing there. I got the bags, this and that. People are coming in. And it's like 4 o'clock, 4:30. So you know that, the TV stations got the news at 6 o'clock. So ESU's showing up, rescue's showing up. Like the TV, they're going to be there. Pregnant lady under a train. You're going to be on the 6 o'clock news. So everybody's coming in. And I'm like, so they're down there. And the train's still on. And we're trying to get the train off. And I'm saying to the guy, you got to shut the power off. Get the power off. Get the power off. And they're crawling along underneath. And what happens? All these guys come down, and everybody's like, oh, we got to do this and a rescue, this and an ESU. And then all of a sudden, a shoving match starts. And then a pushing match starts. And it's like there's going to be like a brawl. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if it was Otto or who it was, comes back, and they put a leg up on the platform next to me. And it's like a size 13, sneaker with a bloody leg. It was a homeless guy that got run over by the train, and everybody looks and they're like, people start taking off. And they had to put the bags in and this, that, and the other thing. So they get the guy out, yada, yada, yada. I'm there forever. I get out and I'm like, well, I missed the audition, but I'm like, I'll try anyway. The trains aren't working, so I jump a cab. But I end up getting up there, and it's late. It's like, whatever, 6:45, 7 o'clock. I walk in, everybody's gone, and I see the casting agent. She goes, leave. You were late. You should have been here. Get out of here. And all of a sudden, Mark Tinker sees me, and he goes, come on in. Why are you? What's going on? And I said, you're never going to believe this. And I was still wearing my fire department, uniform,
right?
Which was probably like a Yankee shirt just over under that and the bada. And they all look at me, and he says, what happened? And I tell him the story of just what happens. And he goes, David Mills goes, okay, you're hired. He goes, you got to be in California in 2 weeks. And I got the job.
And what was that for? Shit.
It was for NYPD Blue, the year 2000. It was the season premiere with, I played the guest star with Kevin Dillon. Me and him were partners. And he was Danger in Entourage. Kevin's great. He's a really sweet kid. And I did that, and I flew out to Los Angeles, and I did that one, and which was crazy because later on, I got brought out to California to do Band of Brothers, and they flew me out to California not long after that. And I came out to do Band of Brothers, and I met Tom Hanks, and at the time he was doing the movie, whatever that Wilson movie was. Wilson?
Castaway.
Yeah, he was really skinny, and his hair was long, and they were casting for Band of Brothers. And I came out, and they put me up, and I read, and they're like, you look exactly like this guy, whoever this guy was, the character. You're going to get the part. The casting woman was like, you're going to get the part. You're going to be the guy. And so I go in and I read, and it goes well. And then they say, hey, here's this long monologue. Why don't you read this monologue? He wants you to read this monologue. So then I read this long monologue, and I memorize the monologue in 5 minutes, and I go in there and I read it. And I come out, and they're like, thanks a lot. And then the next day I get on a plane, and I go back to New York. And I'm like, I'm going to be in this new thing called Band of Brothers. I don't know really what it is, but that's what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden, I never get a phone call, and I never hear anything. And my agent at the time was like, I don't think you got it. And I said,
wow,
you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot a documentary about the New York City Fire Department. I'm going to shoot something that I know that I can do, that I've been through, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I work with these incredible guys like you guys. And I've been to all these crazy things. And I'm just going to shoot a documentary. I mean, how hard can it be to shoot a documentary? And I was living with a French ballerina who was gorgeous, beautiful woman.
Yeah, that don't suck.
Yeah, no, she's an incredible.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, she's just incredible.
Off the air.
Off the air, we'll talk.
Yeah, and she had a friend of hers, and they'd just gotten out of NYU, and his name was Gettin. He had a brother, Jules. We started talking. I remember going to a party. We were at a party. He's smoking a Gold Waz, talking to me. They were heavy things.
Yeah.
They'd just done a documentary about boxing. I said, I'm going to shoot this documentary. And they're like, we have cameras. Can we do it with you? This is a great idea. We think it's a great idea. They were listening to all the stories I was telling. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just do it. And we'll do it. And so we send out like 200 letters to everyone, production companies, this and that, and all these. Everyone that we got, we had a stack of them like this. I think Gideon still has them all. No, thank you. 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 And I'm just like, all right, so what do you do? Just do it the fireman's way. Do it yourself and get it done. So I go to the chief of my firehouse and I'm like, listen, I want to make this documentary because let's just put it in context. I had seen The Bronx is Burning. Mm-hmm. You guys have seen that documentary.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It is so brilliant. And it took place in the South Bronx. And I had lived in the South Bronx. My grandfather, my dad, my grandfather. I knew the South Bronx. I knew all the streets. And when I was watching it, I was just like, this is hilarious. These two English guys following around. And then, it's just brilliant. And then, like when they say, in the afternoon, the savages come out and start lighting fires.
That guy is classic.
And everybody knows, like, if you're cooped up in school all day and then they let you out right after school and then you go drink a bunch of soda and eat candy, kids are going to go crazy.
Yeah.
They're going to go bonkers. So, and that happens everywhere. And then there was this guy, Dennis Smith. And I knew the firehouse because my friend's father had worked there. And I'm like, and here's this guy, and he's just talking like, yeah, we go to fires and this and that. And he's so calm, and he reminds me of all like Billy McDaniel, Sal Praglia, Billy McGee. It was like there are these guys that are like unbelievable firemen, and they're
humble,
and they're so calm. Yeah. And I thought, wow, I could do that. I could make that documentary, and I'll just make it today, and we'll shoot it somewhere. And so I tell this to the chief. And we were at this bar around the corner from where we were called Spaghetti Western. And I said, so what do you think, Chief? And he goes, I think that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
That's when you know you got to do it.
He's like, if you want to ruin your career, then you go there. He goes, what does the sign say in the kitchen?
Whatever happens here, let it stay here.
Yeah. Whatever happens here, whatever you see here, whatever goes on here, stays
here. Let it stay here. Right. So start a podcast instead.
So I was like, all right. So
you do that one.
Yeah. And we go out and we get these cameras, right? Cheap. I mean, think about it. We go out and get cameras for like whatever it is, $1,200, PD-150s, bunch of tapes, and Gideon's shooting, I'm shooting, and then Jules is working, and then he's coming and shooting sometimes and learning how to use the camera. And he ends up shooting like the most unbelievable footage of all time. And so before that even happens, we have to go to the commissioner, and we have Yeah, that's us, the three of us. That's after 9/11. They came and took pictures of us. But yeah, that was the camera, that little PD-150 with the light. And Jules was holding that in the World Trade Center the whole time, and he used that light to show everybody Father Judge and then find their way out. And Jules is on the right, and he was in that the whole time, and he shot the most amazing footage of all time. And so we have to go to the commissioner, and I go to Frank Ribbons, and I'm like, hey, we want to do this documentary. And Frank Ribbons is like, no way. It's never happening. But he was at the Daily News, and my family's all from the Daily News. So then I dropped my family's name, and he was like,
You did it. You dropped the name. You got him.
And he says, okay, come to what's called, come, we'll do a meeting. And so we go for a meeting, and we go in to meet Von Essen. And I couldn't believe, I'd never met Tommy Von Essen. I knew a couple of stories about him. And my captain, Fred Zerilli, the guy in the truck, once broke his finger, snapped his finger. You know, the two of them got in an argument at a union meeting. And so I knew of him. But when we got in there, he was just like, you're going to do what? No, I don't think so. And then he started like making fun of Gideon. Oh, you're Frenchman. Oh, you think you're going to go into a fire? And I'm like, and then I just went, okay.
Like Beauty and the Beast.
I can see where this guy's coming from. I can see it's like, you know, very bravado, big guy, you know. Yeah. And I just went, I said, I know how to do this. It's going to be easy. And I said, the great thing about this is when we film this and we follow this probie and we do this, we're going to have to interview, you know, other people. And you're going to be one of the prominent guys as the new commissioner of the fire department and your whole story coming up. And I was like, and when this airs on PBS or whatever it's going to air on, you'll be a big part of it and everybody will know who you are. And Ted snapped him and he went, really? And I said, absolutely. I said, absolutely. You're going to be a real big part of this. And then he goes, well, and I said, we have this paper and all you have to do is sign it. And if you sign it, then we can go to the Rock and start looking for the kid and we can do all this. And he went, and then there was a couple other guys in there and they were all laughing. And they said, what's the worst thing that could happen? They all die in a fire. What are you going to do? And they were joking around. And then he was like, all right, go ahead. You can do it. And he signed the paper and that was it.
You know how to do it, bro. Look at him.
I don't know. I mean, it was kind of like a thing. And then that was a year before. And then every time we would go to a probie class, we would see the probie class. They'd put them in front. And then Gideon and I would go up there, or Jules, and we'd be in there. And we would make a speech and say, hi, we're filmmakers. I'm a fireman. And these guys are filmmakers. And the three of us are the filmmakers and the directors. And we're going to do this documentary. And we're going to follow you in your firehouse and this, that, and the other thing. And yada, yada, yada. And everybody would look and we'd say, is anybody interested? And everybody go like this. And the captain there would say, all right, nobody put your hands up. All right, you guys made your speech. All right, we'll check to see who's going to be involved. And we'll meet you outside. And every time they walk outside and go, nobody's doing it. It's done now. You can leave now.
Really?
And they would go in there and tell the guys, if anybody does this and you all do it, your career's over. Before it even started.
Really?
And that's what they were saying to the guys. And then I found out because I asked the chief. I was like, I don't know what it is, chief, but nobody wants to do it. And he said, let me call over there. And he called over. And I guess one of the guys that was there, captain, was like his probie back in the day in Brooklyn. And he goes, yeah, kid, they don't want it done. So it's not going to happen. So then I said, can you help me out, please? Can you just help? And he said, it's not going to happen. I said, come on, chief. And then he said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but go back again for the next class. And we went back. And that's when we found 3 kids. One was an Irish pizza kid from the Bronx. I thought he was hilarious. He's like, yeah, I'm an Irish pizza kid from the Bronx. And I thought, wow, he's hilarious. Then there was another guy who looked like, you know, kind of like John Wayne. He was just like a big, you know, lumbering kind of good looking guy. And then there was Tony Benetatos. And Tony was kind of cerebral. And, you know, he's this kid. And yeah. And Jules loved him. And Jules said,
he's got no personality, though. I don't know this. I would have went with the Irish pizza kid, man.
The Irish pizza kid was very funny. He was kind of like my choice. But then Tony came, you know, we picked up Tony, and it was like, Jules was like, no, I'm telling you, it's my gut feeling. This is it. And Gideon was like, what do you think? And I was like, what do you think? He's like, I'll go with Jules. I said, okay, we're going with Tony. And we went with Tony. And Tony, you know, married, 4 kids now, yada, yada. He's retired off of the job. And he's coming to the firehouse. So I negotiate the deal. And I, you know, everybody's getting it. You know, when you were coming out of the firehouse, where did you go?
What do you mean?
Where did you go to the fire? What firehouse did you go right out of the gate? Out of
210.
So you go to 210. Did you have a hook?
No.
Did you have a hook, Lou?
No.
Yeah, I mean, the only hook I had was not getting thrown out of probie school.
Which was an important hook.
Yeah, which was an important hook. But you know how everybody has a hook. And,
Yeah.
you know, guys would be like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go?
I had like
And,
15
you know,
chief
all of a sudden,
sons
some
in
guy
my
went to
class.
111. Like, how'd you get there?
Yeah.
Like, what'd you know, the Pope? Like,
His father's a chief.
I say, the only way this is going to work is if we send him to the Harlem Hilton. So he's got to go to 69 and 28. And they're like, no, it's not going to happen. So I call downtown and I say to Von Essen, I go, we got to send him to 69 and 28. It'll be a great thing. That's going to give him more exposure, which is going to give your interviews more exposure. And this will be a big thing. It'll be a big event on TV. And he goes, all right, he's going to 69 and 28. And then I got a call from the captain. I went up there, actually. He called me up and said, come up here. So I went up to see the captain. And he goes like this, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? You're not bringing cameras into this house. You've got to, you're out of your mind. He goes, no, not happening. Send him somewhere else. And I said, no, he's coming here. And he was like, do you have any aspirations of doing anything on this job? Because if you do, they're over. And I don't want to say who the captain was at the time, but he's a very,
I know who he is.
He's a very storied captain. He had an amazing career, and he's a really nice guy. But he was telling me, like, no, this is not going to happen.
I could see his point.
And so we're going back and forth, and he's assigned to that company. And then 2 days before he's going to his company, I realize I'm in the firehouse, I'm working, we catch a job and this and that. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get from Duane Street up to Harlem, back to Duane Street, do my tours, follow this kid, shoot this, shoot that, all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. So I go to my chief, Larry Burns, who's in the movie, the chief who comes in and grabs a probie and takes him down there. He's a battalion commander. And I say, Chief, can I switch the kid and put him in this firehouse? And he goes, you've lost your mind. He's like, we're going to kick you out of the firehouse. You can't bring cameras in here. Go do it in 6928, but you're not doing it here. I said, please, Chief. I said, let me do it. And he goes, I don't know why I'm doing this. But I had gotten tickets for him and his wife to a Broadway show. So I felt like he owed me.
Hey, Rolf, this guy knows how to get shit done over here, bro.
And so we make the switch and we put him in Ladder Company 1 2 days before he's supposed to be assigned. It was like a big deal because you know how it's a big deal when you get assigned and everything, yada, yada, yada. He gets switched and he comes to my firehouse and we show up and we start filming and Gideon and Jules walks in the firehouse with me. We have cameras, we're filming, and the guy, I swear to God, I thought they were going to kill me. I told them.
How did the brothers react to it?
Oh, they hated him. They would go. All they would do is walk by every time they turned on the camera. They go, "Fuck you! Eat a bag of dicks, you motherfucker!" And they would be like, "Fuck you very much. How you fucking doing?" I say, "You eat a bag of dicks, you motherfucking cocksucker." And Kitty was like, "We can't use this.
We cannot use this."
What is this? Eat a bag of
what
dicks?
is this bag of dicks?
No. Like that, they were saying stuff like that, and they were calling them the Frenchies and Fifi and Fufu, and they were being like super real to them. I was like, let me tell you something. These are my friends. They're really great guys. What are you doing? And Johnny O pulled me aside, and he goes, "Have you lost your mind? He goes, we're putting in your paper, and you're out of here. You're gone." He's like, "You're a good fireman. You've been through so much with us. What are you doing? You're done. You're done, and done." And I got to tell you something. I would go home and I would be like, "Oh my God, I really think I got into the fire department. I get through all I get through, and now I'm doing this." And they're like, "What are you? Are you a fireman? Are you a Hollywood guy?" And I'm just,
Did you have that same feeling that when you told the drill instructor you're going to kick his ass? You had the same feeling?
It's all crashing down around me.
What am I doing right now?
Yeah, like I just stepped in another big pile of shit that was my fault. And it was not good. It was not going good. And the crazy thing is, I would work at 24. We'd catch a job. I'd get off duty. Gideon would show up. Jules would show up. Tony would come in. We wouldn't get a run. Nothing happened. Nothing. It was just, he was the biggest white cloud of all times. And it was like this crazy couple.
What did the guys do with him? Like, they must have treated him.
He had a hard time.
I mean, to begin with, he's awkward, socially awkward, right? So now they're doing this whole movie round, and in the firehouse, they must have been like gunning for this kid, man.
The footage with him would be good because we'd ask him questions and it would be good. And he was very isolated. Like no one would be around. And he was very isolated. And he is very smart and he is very bright. And so he's quiet. But you know, and he's not politically aligned with what usually firemen are, because he's much more, I would say, liberal. And the guys, most of the guys were conservative. And so it's not going well. But the thing with Jules and Gideon is they're sweet human beings, and they're really good guys. And I think people would see, who has ever watched the film realizes that, you know, they're two very brave guys. You know, they're the kind of guys that are thrown into something and they get through it, and they're amazing. So we're doing all this, and like 2 nights before, I'm like, let's bring him up in the bucket and we'll shoot a shot. And with the World Trade Center in the back, and let me talk to the kid, and it'll be like a kind of a senior guy talking to him. And so we go up in the bucket, and I said, get in the bucket with me. And he's like, I'm not getting in the bucket. And I go, why? He goes, I'm afraid of heights. That's all Greaves had to hear. So Greaves extends the bucket all the way to the top and starts moving it like this.
Shaking
back and forth. I thought Gideon's turned green, and I'm in the bucket with Tony, and Tony's a probie, and he's holding on. Finally, he locks it off and just goes in the firehouse and leaves us up there, right? And I'm just like, it's funny. And so I have this conversation with him, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, you know, about how serious the job is, and when something happens, and you got to kind of focus, and, you know, a lot of stuff can be going on. And right behind us is the World Trade Centers. And we're talking. And then we come down. And then the night before, Jules came in and made a meal. It's all in the documentary. Anybody who's ever seen it. And, you know, we're struggling in the firehouse with the guys, but the guys are starting to accept them. And then all of a sudden, you know, that was the night before, and then the next morning happens, and the run comes in.
You guys are using the fucking TIF, right? It was a gas leak, wasn't it? A gasoline leak or something?
Yeah, on Church and Leonard, and just as they're coming down, Chief Pfeiffer, who's the sweetest man in the world. I mean, talk about making the right call on every decision that morning. Just everything that came out of his mouth was textbook correct. And he's a wonderful human being. He's just like the sweetest guy. I don't know if you read his book, An Ordinary Hero or An Ordinary. He's a great guy, just unbelievable. And he wasn't in our firehouse a long time. He was kind of newly assigned and everything. And he wasn't there for years. He wasn't there a long time. And his brother was up in 33, Kevin. And so they get this run, and they're coming down, and I hear the run, and I'm near the house watch, and Jules comes down, and I said, why don't you jump in with the chief? And he says, can I jump in? And the chief goes, no, it's just gas leak. And I was like, well, he needs to practice, because Gideon was getting all over Jules, saying, you got to practice more, because Jules had a regular day job, and he would come every once in a while. And so he says, all right, get in the back seat. So Jules goes in the back seat. And before he gets in the back seat, I had extra tape with me. And I take the wrapper off, and I stick it in his pocket. And I go, just in case something happens. And they go on that run. And then that run turns into they're on the corner.
I mean, how he catches the plane is absolutely incredible.
You hear it first, right? I think they heard it.
Yeah, I mean, you see the fireman. He looks up.
The plane goes by, and then there's the AT&T building, and he turns perfectly just like that with his body, and that plane banks up and hits the building. And for all these people that ever said conspiracy, this and that and the other thing, no, it's not a conspiracy. The plane really hit the building, and it goes into the building. A couple of guys there, you hear them, what they're saying, oh my God. Chief says, get inside. They get inside, and Jules jumps in the back, and he's on the way. And I don't think at first, maybe, I don't know about Five. I never asked him this, but it doesn't seem like he's really, like he's concentrating so much on what's going on.
He don't even know anything going on.
And Jules looks up, you see the building, and he's making the radio transmissions, and then he makes the call and says, everybody go to Weston VZ. And that'll be that staging point, and then they go into the lobby. And so they make the turn and they go. And then when he opens the door, he realizes Jules with him. And Jules says, what should I do? And he says, stay right next to me and don't move. Because now he's got to protect this.
Now he feels obligated to protect him.
Yeah, civilian, right? And Eddie Fahey, who I could talk a whole show about Eddie Fahey, how much of a hero this guy is, an amazing human being. Eddie is Big Head Ed. I love Ed. And he's the battalion aide, and he's not a battalion aide. He works in the truck, but that morning he relieved the battalion aide guy because something was going on. Either a child or that guy was having like an operation. He had to leave early. So now Ed's the battalion aide, and they go in, and as soon as they pull up underneath that awning, I don't know if you've ever been to the World Trade Center. We used to go, whenever the World Trade Center got a box, it was a full order.
Assignment. Right.
Yeah, everybody's coming, right? And so, and we had been there the night before on the 70-something floor, and then we went to a car fire in the basement, and all the guys from the 1st Battalion, we have them on camera the night before, and we're joking around, and and we're joking around, we're laughing, and 50 car, blah 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 blah, and 26 of those guys die the next morning.
That's crazy, man.
So there's this footage of them that no one's ever seen. Of us all joking around the night before, at these boxes and yada, 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 because you never know what's going to happen. You can go out the door and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, nobody's thinking about tomorrow. Nobody's thinking about that. And we're all just joking around. They're making fun of, Gettin and Jules and me and yada, yada, yada. We're laughing and having a great time. And then everybody goes back to the firehouse. And now the next morning, and everybody's showing up to the building. And there's so many stories. I mean, we've told a lot of stories, and everybody's seen Jules and Gettin's story and my story and all that stuff. But there's so many stories that happened on 9/11 about individuals, whether it's like the Patty Brown story, being with all the people that were in the wheelchairs and on the 44th floor and turning off his radio and saying 3 trucks not leaving, to have you guys had Tim Brown?
Jay Jonas too.
The Jay Jonas story with those guys in the Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
he's been on, right?
And we've had Tim Brown on too.
Yeah, I saw him on. What about Tim Brown? Have you had Tim Brown?
Yep.
Tim Brown, to me, story is like, and he's coming out with a book. I mean, Timmy is just, I love Timmy. Yeah. I mean, Timmy's like amazing. The last time I saw Timmy was out here. I saw him out here. I had lunch with him and Jason Redman, the Navy SEAL who got shot through the side of his face. He's a really good friend of him. And we had lunch, and Timmy's great. But there are so many stories of all these people. And here's a crazy story that happened that morning is that Terry Rivera, who was a Navy corpsman, and then he got assigned to 10 house, was detailed the night before to 33. So he's up in 33 engine. And Chief Pfeiffer's brother's working. The morning comes and they get a run to respond, and he gets relieved, and Terry says, I'll take it. I'll take the run in. And the guy goes, no, I'll take it in. You're relieved. So he steps off at 33 and he goes back to his firehouse, which is 10, and 33 goes to the North Tower. And you see in the video, Kevin comes in and him and Chief kind of nod to each other, and 33 goes up, and that's the last time they're ever seen. Terry goes to 10, and as 10's there, he says to Atlas, I think it was Lieutenant Atlas, or it might have been Farrell, who was detailed from Brooklyn Cabins there. He says to him, I want to go in with you. And Terry's a Navy corpsman. He's a package guy, trained to be a Navy SEAL and yada, yada, yada. And he says, yeah, come over with us. So they're responding in. So now he goes from 133 that goes up. He got relieved there, and now he's at 10 going in. And all of a sudden, there's all these burned people in the lobby because everybody's burned. Mm-hmm. And Jamal Braithwaite, who was up in 51 truck, he's putting one of the people out. And the officer turns to Terry, because he's an extra guy now on that thing. He says, Terry, start packaging these people because he knows he's a corpsman. And Terry starts taking care of burn people. And there was what are those ambulances called? The Hetzbolahs? Is it the?
The Jewish ones?
Yeah.
Hatzola.
The Hatzola. So there's a couple of those out there. And Terry starts grabbing bodies and carrying them and packaging them and doing all this stuff as people jump in and this and that. And he's out in front, and some Daily News reporter is taking photos and captures all of that. And then he's outside now, so he survives.
Wow.
And he lives out here by me, and he and I go to the range shooting and stuff like that. He's a fantastic human being. And I look at stories like his story. I look at other people's stories. I don't know both of your stories. And as a documentary guy, looking at, I've spent 20 years telling everybody's stories, like all of these stories and everything that happened that day. And, sometimes I have a hard time talking about that day, and I get really emotional. But there's just so much that's packed into that. So I think about that night. Some terrible things happened that night with things and bodies and stuff, and that really, it changed me for who I was. And so I spent the next 20 years telling stories, and I could go deeply into what happened, trying to just get the documentary made from that day, the footage and surviving and everything that happened and the collapses and going through all that. And, I just not asking, have you seen so-and-so? Have you seen so-and-so? And not knowing who was alive and who was dead. And, I remember seeing Johnny Mack when I finally got back to the firehouse with him, and I couldn't believe that he was alive because he just showed up, and he went down there with Stevie Rogers, and they got kind of buried next to the North Tower, next to the other side of the building. And, Gideon was in a fire truck that got cut in half, and Jules' story is right there. He's with Joe Pfeiffer, and Joe Pfeiffer jumps on top of him. And, and we think about everything that we all live through and go through. And it's crazy. It's sometimes, I walk out, and I live in California now, and you see that sky. I don't know how it is for you guys, but sometimes when you see a blue sky.
That was that morning. Beautiful blue sky morning.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing sometimes to look at because I think, is something going to happen now? And so, the documentary is,
when was it finalized? After all that,
and I've told that kind of story. Maybe what people don't know is how it came to be after that. And I will say that, working down there on the pile, just from that day, like everything that happened that day, and then just going in there. And I even remember showing up with two guys, Port Authority guys, and they were like, they need bottles. And I remember being so dopey. We found bottles at 10, and we brought them over. I didn't even have a mask. I just had a bottle. And I'm like, what are we doing? And they were going to cut their legs off, and there was a guy down there. And I went down below grade and was climbing through and going into where the subway was and where the mezzanine level was and doing things. And I was like, looking for people. And I don't know. There was just so much going on that day that none of us knew about. And
James, when did you finalize?
The basement of the Deutsche Bank building.
Can you hear me?
Captain Gary Ladgen.
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, James? I don't think you can hear me.
And I remember being.
You can't hear Louis. Louis asking when did it finally? When did you finalize the documentary?
Well, no one knew that we actually took the footage, and we had the footage. And one of the cameras that I had was inside a rig that got crushed, and Gideon had his camera and the lens was broken, and Jules shot all that amazing footage. And we go back to the firehouse and everybody sees everybody, and you kind of can't believe that guys from our firehouse are alive. And then we start finding out about other guys. And then the FBI comes across the street and they take the tapes.
What?
They literally took the tapes. They took the tapes and they went back to the FBI building.
How long does they have them for?
They had them for about 48 hours.
Oh,
and then they brought them back. And so we have these tapes, and what do you do with the tapes? Like, you know what I mean? We're down there digging. Nobody's below Canal Street. The military's there. I haven't seen a TV. All I've heard is like a little radio. I don't know what's going on in the world. I got stuff in my eye. My eye's all messed up. I'm not saying anything because who's going to say anything about anything? And then, you know, we're going through all of this, and everybody in my firehouse is doing all this stuff, and they're going down and we're digging up and digging bodies, and guys are showing back up, and, you know, like Captain Zerilli, who had retired, showed back up. All these guys showed up, Denny Pennifield, and all this stuff is happening. And we're sitting on these tapes that have all this footage and no one's ever seen it. And eventually, I'll just fast forward a little because weeks are going by, and, you know, we're sleeping on the floor, the apparatus floor. And, you know, I remember that night going around because people were stuck in elevators and people in the neighborhood and pregnant ladies. And we were cutting the stores open and getting diapers for people and baby food and doing all this stuff and it was like a ghost town down there. It was just nothing. And, you know, at one point, and I'll fast forward to, we have these tapes, and eventually, Jules and Gideon's father, God bless his soul, he just passed away. He knew somebody. He's like, well, why don't you take it to CBS and show them the tapes? And we did. And we went there and we met Les Moonves, who was the head of CBS at Black Rock. And we met Andrew Hayward, who was the head of CBS News. And there was a couple other people in the room. And Graydon Carter from Vanity Fair was there, and myself and Gideon. And I was wearing bunker pants, and Gideon brought me a suit jacket. and we stood in it, and they watched the footage. And while we were watching the footage, and Ben Silverman was there. And while we watched the footage, I couldn't believe how Andrew Hayworth and Les Moonves were so in tuned on what was going on, and they were asking questions and people and this and that and dip that up, and when it was over, they said, "Listen, this is amazing footage. You guys, unbelievable how you lived and this and everything. We'll take the footage, we'll incorporate it into the news, and let's get it out there in the world." And I said no, and everybody just looked at me. I said, "We're not doing that." And like everybody was looking at me, and I said, "This is a film. We've been shooting for 3 months. We've been shooting here." And I kept shooting with the camera. We got a new lens, and I kept shooting down at the site as we were digging, and I was shooting. And I got Gideon down there and Jules, and they came on the pile. And people were like, "Who are these two dudes?" And we were shooting. And we asked every guy that survived to come to the 3rd floor, and we had all these mattresses that people had brought us. And we sat them between stacks of mattresses about 10 high in this room in the back under a fluorescent light. And I made everybody tell their stories. And on the original DVD, that's an extra hour and something. And you can see it. And it ends with Ed Fahey. And he's smoking a cigarette. And he goes, "And that's all I have to say, Jimmy." And it ends. That. And John O'Neill's on there. Tommy Spinard, who's amazing. And, you know, and jumped over Joe to save him when the collapse happened. And all these guys, and Nicky Barillo and Damian Van Cleef, and at one after another, and Chief Pfeiffer. And they all did the interview, and we interviewed them for like 2 hours. And that's why I knew we had a documentary. And I told him, I said, "No, we have a story." And he said, no, we'll do it this way. If that's what you want to do, this is what we're doing. And I went, no, we're not doing that. I was like, it's going to be a 2-hour special, and 30 million people will watch it. And I'll never forget it. I was standing there, and I had really bad PTSD. I was like, I mean, the whole left side of my hair would fallen out already. I was a mess. I mean, I was a mess of a human being. And I remember looking at these windows, and it's like the windows are like from the floor to the ceiling. We're on the top floor of the Black Rock building. And Les said to me, 30 million people, what are you smoking? And I looked at him, and I don't know if you've ever had that out-of-body thing where you speak, but you're watching yourself speak. And what I said was, you'd never fucking talk to me that. Like, who do you think? But I didn't say anything, and I just looked at him, and I went, no problem. I think 30 million people will watch it, and we'll take this down the block, and we'll go elsewhere, like to NBC or something.
Right.
And then I started walking towards the door, and Andrew Hayworth said, "Oh, hold on a second, young man," because I was young back then. And he said, "You should have a job in the news business." He goes, "Let's figure this out, and let's let the boss make a decision." And Les was sitting there, and he said, "I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you somebody to go meet. You will put together a bunch of stuff and bring it to them. And if I think there's anything here and we'll do something like that," he goes, "we'll do it." He goes, "And you have 3 days to do that." And then Ben Silverman jumped up and he went, "Deal, we'll take it," because he was an agent. And Gideon looked at me, and Gideon and I walked out, and we went in, and I said, "I think," he goes, "No, James," because we had talked about it, and Gideon was like, "Yeah, this is, we can do this." And we walked out and we got to the elevator, and we went down, and then I went back to the pile, and I was digging, and then when I got relieved, I went up to his house, and we sat in his house, and we just put together everything on VHS tapes, interviews, clips, and this and that, and he edited it, and we did it, and we brought all that to a woman at CBS, and her name was Susan Zirinsky, and she was an amazing woman. She's like this tall. And did you ever see the movie Broadcast News with Holly Hunter?
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. Holly Hunter plays a young Susan Zirinsky.
Oh, get out of here.
So she's a real woman. Yeah. And so Susan Zirinsky sat down with us. We showed her the stuff. She looked at it. She had been to war zones, this, that, and the other thing. She has a very famous tape. You can see it on YouTube where Jimmy Carter falls down while he's running, and she grabs a microphone and reports live from the event, and yada, yada, yada. And she was an angel and a wonderful woman, and she's tough as nails. And she said, "I think you're right. I think we could do this. I'll back you up." And so we started this documentary, and we were doing it on CBS. And I would go home. I would dig on the pile. I would then go to CBS and sit down with all these amazing editors from 60 Minutes and sit in the editing room, and I wouldn't sleep. And then I would go back to the pile, and we put together that documentary in 6 weeks. And we had a meeting at the Rock to let people know that we were doing something, because everybody found out about, somebody did an article and everybody found out about the footage.
Right.
So they held a family meeting at the Rock, and everybody was there. And Gettin and I stepped up, and Schiapetta introduced us. And the minute he introduced us, somebody threw a magazine and hit me in the shoulder up here. And everybody started screaming at us and telling us that we're going to die, and they hope we'll die. And they were yelling and screaming at us. And the guy who threw the magazine was Jimmy Ritchie's. And they were raw emotion.
Right.
Deservedly so. I mean, they didn't know what was going on. And we were there to explain what it was. Like, this was footage of all their loved ones in these most heroic moments. I mean, think about all that footage of these guys running up and doing it. And some of it was the last images that they'll ever see of their loved ones. And the people that were jumping from the buildings were people from the buildings, but we never showed that in the documentary. And that was a conscious choice not to do that.
So what was the biggest problem then?
Well, I mean, I was going home when I did go home, and I was in the phone book, and people were constantly like, you have 69 messages, or you have 59 messages. And then the phone would ring, and I would pick it up, and someone would be like, "Are you the fireman?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And they'd be like, "I hope you fucking die. I hope you fucking die. I hope you get,
Yeah, but why? What was I don't understand.
Because no one knew what the footage was. No one knew what was happening. They all had. Listen, I don't begrudge anybody. I don't hold a thing against anybody. I mean, if you don't know, and you have to remember what this was before cell phones. This was before everything. You know, if you don't know what footage is, people might think that their loved ones are going to be. You're going to see them getting crushed and this and that and all these things. So
why don't we wait to see before we start telling people we hope they die? Is the part that I.
Well, I got a lot of that, and then you know, I would try to describe things and explain things, and then that's what the meeting was at the Rock, and that kind of went sideways, and Father Chris stepped in, and then afterwards we stayed there, and I try to explain things to a lot of people, and then I realized I have to do something, so I just went. I kind of like lived on a couch in between. I would go down, dig on the pile, and then I would live at CBS, and I went frame by frame by frame. And I got every face. I remember one guy, I only had one frame of his face. He was like behind somebody. And he was an officer from 26. And I made 70, I think it was 74, you know, tapes. And I gave that to the families, you know, just to give them something at the last moment of their loved ones. And then.
Was it well received?
Yeah, everybody was really nice and people were kind. And when the film came out, you know, at the very end, I mean, we were doing it, putting it together, and it was going to air, you know, it aired at the 6-month anniversary. And I think 75 million people watched it.
So much for 30 million people.
But you know what he did? He came up to me afterwards, Les Moonves, and he gave me a hug. And he said, what you guys have done for the nation is a great thing, and you did the right thing.
Well, he manned up. At least he manned up.
Les Moonves has done so much that people don't know about. I went to him and I said, we don't have enough family vans. People are getting sick, this and that. Like after the 5th and 10th anniversary, and I was like, people are getting sick. We don't have enough family vans. And he was just like, what do you need? He's like, don't tell anybody. This is not coming from CBS. This is coming from me. Put me in touch with this and he started purchasing stuff, and he's a great man. He was like, can I contribute to any scholarship funds or anything? He was a great he still is a great guy. I haven't seen him in forever, but I love him. I think he's a great man. I think he made a choice to make this film, and I think it was an important film that was made, and he was great. Susan Zorinsky, great. Andrea Hayworth, great. Betsy West, great. Jules and Gideon, best friends, great.
Still talk to them too?
Yeah, without a doubt. We were going to do the 25th anniversary this year, and I called up all the guys. And just imagine, like, I have a hard time talking about it, and, you know, anybody does. You know, and it's kind of hard to sit a guy down and say, all right, take me through from the minute the plane hits, what do you do? It's rough, you know, and it's like you guys, you have these things in your head. And if your wife said to me, tell me exactly what happened, you don't want to say that to somebody else because, you know, you don't want to put that on them. And the second thing is you got to relive it. And so we had all the guys lined up. I had all the guys lined up, every one of them. Every one of them said, Jimmy, I'll do it. And we went to CNN Films and then CNN said no. They don't want to do it.
Not interested.
So they're not interested in doing the 25th anniversary update of the film or running the film, I think.
What did the guy say? You told me in the pre-show, the one guy with the cigarette. They said, how will people remember?
We were on the pile. I mean, I don't know. You remember like it rained like 2 or 3 days afterwards?
Yeah.
And I remember we were down in a void, really down deep in a void. And I saw a bunch of rats around, and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, this is, you know, no, this is not good. And we then found a body, and we were digging, and we found this guy, and we found the body, and we kind of were digging it out. We wanted to get him out whole, you know, because his body was already, you know, decompressing and everything like that. And so we're trying to get it. So we're working on his body, and we were working in groups like the same guys. And then all of a sudden, this horn goes off, and everybody starts running. And they're running off the piles because, you know, the Deutsche Bank building is like hanging on by a all the bottom beams were like pushed in and cut. That thing could have fell at any time. There was all those other fires. I mean, we put fires out in 90 West that night, floor by floor by floor, forever. I mean, it was insane. And what happened in 90 West, to me personally, and with 2, 3, 4 other guys, still is scarred in my head so deeply. So yeah, we were on the pile, and I'll never forget Patty Soto, who's dead now. He passed away, Patty, and tragically, and he really got a rough. The job really treated him terrible. They treated him terrible, and they treated Eddie Fahey terrible. Two of the biggest heroes, unbelievable FDNY heroes, and the job totally abandoned them, and I'll never forget the job for that. But anyway, we're on the pile, and we're digging this guy out, and we get him in the body bag, and this thing goes off, and everybody starts running, and we just stayed there. We just sat there, and everybody's running, and like, what are we gonna do? Outrun the buildings? And Patty says, "You know what?" He's smoking a cigarette, Patty, and he goes, "They'll never forget us. No one will ever forget this day, like that day. They'll ever forget what we did. Nobody will ever forget us. Fire department forever. Everything we did. This and anything." And Griebesland was a Norwegian squarehead, senior guy, phenomenal firefighter, smoking a cigarette, and he goes, "I give it 10 years. 10 years." He goes, "None of this will be here." He goes, "It'll be a mall or a parking lot, and they won't even give a fuck."
Yeah.
And then he went back to smoking. And I looked at him, and I looked at him, and I said, "These are the stories that no one would ever believe that were said. These are the things." And I know that you guys too, like after a job, sitting on the back of either 290 or 283, like when you guys come out of a building and you're standing there, and some guy says something, and you just go, "Oh my God, that's so fucking, prophetic," and so. Yes, people say things at certain times, and it just burns into your
sticks
brain.
in your mind. Yeah.
Oh, not that one. The other one.
That was that day. So.
Les Moonves, Chief Oriole Palmer, Steve Buscemi, all alumni of the same high school. Look at that.
Wow. Chief Oriole. I worked with Chief Oriole Palmer. I loved him. He was such a good man.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran all the way up that.
Yep.
The South Tower. I mean, Les Moonves, love him. I mean, Steve Buscemi shows back up. Yep. I sent a message to Steve Buscemi in the 6-month anniversary, because they were doing like kind of promos because Nextel was paying for the whole thing through CBS. And I asked Steve Buscemi's person if he would do a like a promo thing for and he did it. And he shot it himself. And I swear to God, I think he was on a movie set, and he shot it himself, and he did it. And I think Steve Buscemi
he comes back to 55 all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of the reasons why I took the fire department job as well, because I ran into him on the street, and he had just done, I think, Reservoir Dogs, and he was with Stanley Tucci. And I said, "Listen, I got called from the fire department. Should I join the fire department?" And Tucci went like this: "You're an actor?"
Well, let's get a little bit, because we're going along here. Let's go a little bit into your new book that you put out there.
Oh,
John has a picture of that, I think, somewhere. Let me see.
There it is. This is it right there.
When is that coming
The Legacy
out?
Child. And there it is.
You can't hear me, cool.
And it's it's a thriller. It's set against the 25th anniversary of 9/11. When a military intelligence officer whose father was murdered on 9/11, he was the fire marshal, uncovers a dangerous conspiracy. It's tied to like the long shadows of 9/11. Think of all the conspiracy theories that are out about it. And she finds herself, her name is JoJo McCoy, and she finds herself in a race to stop another attack before it happens. And basically it's, I spent so many years in the documentary world, and then I went into the Hollywood world, and I directed NCIS Los Angeles for 13 years. So many shows, and Animal Kingdom, and Chicago Fire, and Station 19, and I got into this world where it wasn't documentary, and because of fiction, you can expand.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of tell things that are different, and it allowed me to explore like the emotional truths of events, you know, that documentaries really couldn't, and I could kind of stretch it out. And so in 2015, I said, let me write this book and this story, because I was deep into NCIS world, and they're always cracking down terrorism and all that stuff. And I thought, well, let me take a crack at this. And I wrote this this book, and I write everything out on legal pads, and then I finally typed it up and I sent it to a friend of mine, and he said to me, "This will never happen. What are you, crazy? This is impossible. How could this ever happen? This is New York," and yada yada yada. And I think if people read this book, they're going to look at it and say, how did this guy predict that this would be going on in New York City on the 25th anniversary at this time?
Don't give any more away.
No, I'm not going to give any more away.
He's the Nostradamus of the FDNY.
No, I guess so. I mean, you know, it's about sacrifice, legacy, patriotism, extremism, grief, how people move through tragedy. I mean, the two of you, myself, we carry this tragedy with us every day. And, you know, what's the legacy that we will leave to our families and who we were? And this book is kind of about this girl, you know, who's this intelligence officer, and her dad died on 9/11. He's murdered. And she finds this notebook of his, and it's like he lived through all this stuff and he left this legacy. And how does she live up to that legacy? And how does she deal with that? And that's really what the book is about. It's a lot about heart. I mean, a lot of people are going to say legacy child, FDNY, 9/11, terrorism, but the book is about heroism and heart, because I talked to so many of these kids for the 15th anniversary update, and they were young and they were coming on the job, and they'd been through so much, and so many of these kids were just so sad, you know, and they're heartbroken, and you see they were just babies when it happened.
Yeah, James. Some of them are retired now. Some of the legacies are retired. Can you believe that?
No,
that's crazy.
I can't.
Yes,
that makes me feel really old.
Yeah, well, you and me both, brother.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And,
yeah.
So I wrote this. You know, it's out now. You can go to official jameshanlon.com.
Throw that up there again, Gons.
And
there it is.
You can go to that and you can click on there and you can buy it. It's a hardcover. And it's a book that I'm proud of. It's something that I wanted to do and get out there. And I live in that world now, the fiction world and television world. And I thought, you know, this is something that, you know, it should.
Kubes,
you know,
it's available
time.
now.
It's time for me to do it.
Yes,
you know?
available now. It's available now, right? Yeah.
It's available now. It's a thriller about the generation that inherited the legacy of 9/11. You know.
I think you're gonna. When I send you my book, you're gonna find a lot of similarities. You said a couple of things here. I'm like, oh my god, that sounds similar.
Yeah, it's you know, it's tough to inherit the responsibilities and the sacrifice of the people that came before you and lived that life. And you know, we live it in a different way. And these kids, you know, they you know, they were just thrust into it as children. And so you know, I really feel for them, and I like to tell stories about that, and sometimes that gets me away from thinking about the actual day and things. And thank you guys. I mean, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh man, I had a great time.
I love your shows, and you know, I look forward to hearing more about your stories and reading your book. And I mean, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. You know, it's about
the
old school tip of the day, right, Ruff?
I don't know if I gave him the old school tip.
You didn't give an old school tip.
I don't know if I gave it to him. It's been a while since I talked to him.
It's last minute. I know that we're calling you in here in the bottom of the ninth. But if you have anything that you could share with the young guys that they may not find in the books or they may not find anywhere, something that you want to pass down to the guys, like a legacy, if you will, something that they can use.
A legacy,
firehouse, or could be something in the firehouse, something culturally, something at home, anything like that you can think of.
Well, I mean, I remember all the senior guys, and I wasn't a tool guy, I wasn't a regular guy, but I always made sure when I got back into the firehouse to make sure everything was cleaned. Everything was done, everything was washed, everything looked good, because it was said to me a long time ago. He said, watch these guys that walk to work every day and look at their tools and look at their bags. He goes, they take pride in what they have. He said, we drive around in a fire truck, and our fire truck was old and beat up. He's like, you make sure it's clean, you make sure all the tools are clean, make sure everything's done. He goes, if you're on time, you're late. That's why I always came in an hour and a half.
Like that.
If you're on time, you're late.
I stayed late. I never let a senior guy take an all-by watch. Never. Even when I had 10, 11 years on a job, if a senior guy above me had the all-by, I had the watch. And that was it. And
fabulous. Stand by
Well
one second, because we have too short we have to play here. Because the old school tip of the day is brought to you by
We at the Gettin Salty Experience are excited to announce the launch of the New York City Collectors Club, a brand new spin-off of the FD Collectors Club dedicated exclusively to New York City firehouses. Here's the deal. No more worrying about stopping by a firehouse when the crew's out on a run, and no more rolling the dice on questionable patches and coins off eBay. With this club, everything you receive is 100% authentic, straight from New York City firehouses. And the best part? A portion of every subscription goes directly to firefighter charities each month. Now, because you're a part of the Gettin Salty podcast community, you'll get 50% off your first month. That means you can join for just $14.99. All you have to do is use the code Gettin Salty at checkout. So if you're a collector looking for something real, meaningful, and straight from the source while giving back to New York City's best and bravest, the New York City Collectors Club is for you.
Yeah, I saw Tom up at Syracuse. Great guy. He's the owner of the Collectors Club. And one last one, the FRCE, the Health and Safety Tip of the day.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders, too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
And tonight's old school health and safety tip is maintain strong social connections with friends and loved ones. Social support is crucial for emotional well-being. I think that fits tonight, doesn't it? Absolutely. James, thank you for coming on. Hollywood Hanlon. Telling us your stories. Don't go anywhere yet. We're gonna close out the show, and then we're gonna go back to where we were in the pre-show. So don't click out yet. All right. Next week we got Chief Blattis,
Sock Chief.
Gonzo. You look at him now because he won't be here again next week. Oh, there he is.
Nice haircut.
Oh, nice haircut. What do you got? You gonna wear next week?
I'm on another.
Yeah, nobody wanted to hear anything. That's 2 times in a row I got him, bro. I mean, crying out loud.
Well, I've been seeing him in the back there, so obviously he hasn't had
This
a
is
run
like
yet.
walking into the kitchen when you're coming in for a tour.
This is the kitchen table, James. Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, stay low and go.
We'll see you at the big one,
FDNY
everybody.
forever.
Thanks. That's it, brother.
Oh, I forgot. I got to close out the show now. Well, look at me. Stand by.